Hey everybody, welcome. This is the CCD Podcast. We are down here in the Nerd Cave today, about to get very, very mad. I've got Mr. Mike D down here with me tonight.
It's humongous to be here.
And Leland James.
Hello, I'll see you on the road, Skag.
What's going on, guys? Leland James, our good filmmaker friend.
Hello, everyone.
Be sure to check out his movie, The Fix. You can find that on iTunes and at thefixdoc.com. Leland.
I gotta be
That's
honest. I gotta be honest. I'm getting a little jealous of these intros that you come up with for everybody else. I feel
sorry,
like
man.
I should get like some sort of an intro. Like, hey, this
Mike
is Mike
D.
D.
Mike D
I
ate a
know,
hamburger
it's Mike D.
earlier today,
Yeah.
and
And it was fantastic. Okay, let's go.
He got a really great spot in front of his house.
Oh,
not
shit.
in front of this house.
No.
It takes me a year to find a spot over here. Nah, but I do get jealous of the intros sometimes.
Well.
They are really good. Rob does good intros.
So we're down here today, and we're going to talk about Mad Max, the Mad Max franchise. Obviously, Fury Road about to come out. Very exciting. But we wanted to dig back into the original trilogy of Mad Max. It's about 36 years old.
Yeah.
The first one came out in 1979. What a great year. A lot of great things were born that year.
Subtle.
1979.
Very subtle.
George Miller just directed all of them, all four of them even, which is pretty damn crazy.
He's awesome. I
Pretty
love him.
amazing.
George Miller, pretty awesome
I love him.
director
Oh,
who's
yeah.
just sort of done exactly what he wanted to do.
He is the king of Australian cinema.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like he's made a few American movies here and there. He made Babe and like Lorenzo's Oil.
Well, Babe was an Australian production.
Oh,
so
right. Well,
just,
Well, movies, I just mean like he's not really famous. He's not really a famous director. Like most people don't know his name.
No.
you know?
Alicia's favorite,
No.
like The Witches of Eastwick, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
he did
yeah,
Witches of
yeah,
Eastwick.
yeah.
He's done a few things like that, and now he's just come back
Happy
and do
Feet.
another Mad Max. He did Happy Feet, and I think
Happy
he did,
Feet 2.
he did Babe 2 as well. And
He
I'm
directed
like,
that one.
He just wanted to just do what he wanted to do, and
is a
he
dark
almost
movie.
did a Justice League movie. And like as much as I've fallen in love with him recently, I'm like, I wish that had happened. You know,
It was about, 6-7 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
something like
That's
that.
the one when
Recasting him.
Army Hammer was supposed to be Batman.
Yeah.
And Adam Brody was going to be the Flash. And yeah.
It was gonna suck.
It was going to
Forgot
suck
the part,
horribly.
yeah,
as much as I've
That was it. It was going to be a bad movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as much as I've fallen in love with George Miller lately, though, I'm like, I kind of wish that would have happened. Maybe he would have brought something really awesome.
He's a really good, he's notoriously known for being really good on the set. Like, he's just one of those guys that, he's excited about what he's doing. He gets really excited, and he makes everyone else excited, and yeah.
So we've always talked about like things we'd want to do, like dream jobs or dream things that I'd like to accomplish at some point. And like when you talk about like guys like Kevin Smith or guys like George Miller, these seem like regular guys that hang out with their friends and just happen to be making a movie while they do it.
Hell yeah.
Like that's the way it seems.
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
sure he's an uber professional, and I'm sure he's extremely, well versed and talented. I'm not saying like he's like,
Absolutely.
so what do I got to hit this button for the camera to go? All right, cool. I'm sure he's not a fucking Mongo, but at the same time, I bet you that people don't feel like they're working.
Well, yeah, he's both. He's able to be both.
And I
Yeah.
feel like Kevin Smith gives me that
Totally.
feel. Quentin Tarantino gives me that feel.
Well, and
the
those
way
guys-
he might be a little bit more.
He
of a dick.
inspires loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know how to surround themselves with the right people. Like they know creative
That's
people.
what I do.
Yeah, it's what you got to do if you want to be a genius. You got to surround yourself with good people.
If you want to be like mediocre at everything,
Yeah.
but be involved, you got to find people who are great at each
and that
aspect.
elevates you
Yeah,
up.
that's it.
Yeah.
Because like I've made a career out of being mediocre, but everybody thinks that I put together some awesome stuff, and I'm like, I've barely anything to do with this.
But he's 70 years old now, and
That's the crazy
for
thing.
him to be making this movie at this stage of his career, this Fury Road, is crazy.
It makes sense to me as a fan of his that like this would be his kind of opus.
Yeah, it makes
swan
perfect
song.
sense.
Yeah, like he's been talking about this Fury Road for over 15 years.
Yeah.
One of the things that I kind of find like I admire about this is that he's not fighting the system. Like a lot of the old-timey guys, the guys who pretty much like put cinema on the map when they were doing indie filmmaking for the sake of, because they didn't have a way to do it. They didn't have a blueprint or a formula. Like, guys like Tobe Hooper and guys, horror
Sure,
directors, guys like Wes Craven that were like, I guess this is the way we make a movie. Like, you know, like,
Right.
and then like after like 6 movies, John Carpenter's like, nah, this works. Like, I get this. Like, I can make the music for this movie and do the, you know, like all this weird shit that people would never think to do. They had to.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And now you flash forward 40 years later, 35 years later, and this guy gets the benefit of the studio system.
Sure.
The big budget, the special effects.
Yeah.
The
and he's
you know,
like at a franchise too. It's like it's perfect.
But like the vision that he probably always, and you know, in his head, this is Mad Max has
I
always
think so,
been
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
He's just been limited by budget and limited by this. So like I think like Sam Raimi is a perfect example of that.
Sure.
Like if you watch Darkman,
Great ideas.
But like if you watch Darkman, it is a step way up from the Evil Dead movies in the sense that he, as a filmmaker, he got to do more, but he was still way below where he was doing in Spider-Man.
Sure.
When they gave him the money to do Spider-Man, he's like, if I had this to do Darkman, fucking Darkman would be Superman. Like everybody would know who Darkman is, you know? And I really believe that. Like if that movie would have came along 10 years later in his career, then, you know, it would have been way better. But he wouldn't have got Spider-Man if he had never done Dark.
And he wouldn't have got Liam Neeson.
Yeah,
so.
it's kind of like that logical progression that people don't realize, but like it's very it was very, how do you call, organic back then.
Yeah.
But not because they were cool.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
If you would have told them like we
no.
could shoot this shit for like $100 million, they would have been like, fucking
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, let's
do
go.
it, yeah.
You know, like he would have shot Fury Road 35 years ago if he could.
Yeah.
But we look back on it with like revisionist history, and we're like, this guy's he's an originator, and he gritty and rough, and it's like he had to be. Guy had like $48 in a camera, you know, he fucking filmed in the desert.
I think you're right. I think it is like an opus for him, and
so.
you know, we'll just talk about Fury Road for a second, but like it's like it being like the Mad Max trilogy. And I feel like it's one of those franchises that everybody knows, but I don't think that many people have seen these movies.
That's definitely
you know,
true. Yeah, I talk to people about it all the time.
That's for sure.
And-
We'll
and-
get to that in a minute.
and I think he sort of knows that in a way. And like this is the biggest Mad Max movie by far. Like it's got a huge release. Like none of them were even close to being released like this or of this sort of attention or marketing. Like
Hardy.
I mean, come on, Charlize Theron. And it's like it's on every bus, like, you know, and this is the sum of everything that George Miller has learned in his career, and he's cashing in all of his, you know, he's
put all the markers in, and not for nothing, but like, great fucking move, May 15th.
Oh my God.
perfect.
Great release day.
Perfect.
Like people are like, oh, too soon after Avengers.
No,
Fuck
no,
that.
it's
no.
fine.
Avengers is gonna fuck everybody up all summer.
Totally.
So that means nothing. Guardians proved that. You know, that movie came out in August, and it was made the most money for the whole year. That doesn't happen. The normal industry standards don't apply anymore. What he looked at was like people are going to be on a cinematic high after Avengers, and that this is the follow-up movie a week later, the next big movie. Like, don't let 3 or 4 movies come out in between you and Avengers, which might be shit, might be good flop, not flop, whatever. But people will be like, I'm not going to the movies for the 3rd time this month. You know, a lot of people, it becomes like a drag.
That's a good point.
Especially for like these big action movies. And there's going to be a bunch this summer. And I feel like he was being very the wily veteran.
He knows,
saying like, nah, fuck that. Put
It's
it
the
right
perfect-
behind Avengers.
It's
Put
the
it
perfect companion, too.
Put it the week after. You know?
He's really like the number 3 blockbuster. It's like Furious 7, Age of Ultron.
Yeah. And it's a perfect companion too. And he knew. I mean, again, he almost made one of these movies in Justice League, and now he's like, people are going to enjoy Avengers, and Avengers is awesome, but I am ready for something. I want something totally practical effects, balls to the wall, R-rated. Like, just give it to me. Like, I loved Avengers, but like, come on, let's go.
I mean, my cinema like boner is so hard for this movie. Like, it is crazy.
Very uncomfortable seat, right?
It is crazy how like you watch the first trailer, right? You like we all know, like when we watch that first trailer, we're like, what the fuck is this movie? Even as Mad Max fans, you didn't expect it to be.
Well, I was just hoping. I was like, why wasn't the first movie like this?
Oh,
sorry.
All right, let's start getting into it. Yeah, one more point.
But before we get it, something cool this week to coincide with the release, DC Comics is releasing a pretty fucking cool book. It's It's called it's a prequel. It's a art book that's coming out. Basically, like DC tapped all their great artists throughout the years. Bill Sienkiewicz, a whole bunch of different comic artists, even proper what do you call that? Concept artists. A lot of concept artists that work in Hollywood did renditions of different scenes from Mad Max through the years, and they put together this book in honor of Fury Road. It comes out next week, and I think. It's called Mad Max Fury Road Inspired Artist Edition. And just, like different things that are... And then they're also doing like a 4-issue arc, which was kind of weird because I kind of remember there being some comics, but when I was doing research for this show, I couldn't find anything. And it's one of those few properties that were 80s based that like companies used to love doing at least an adaptation or,
I agree with you. When I was doing research too, I was like, this seems kind of underexposed.
No toys.
Yeah.
There's no toy line.
No cartoon series.
And I think maybe it has a lot to do with the rapiness of it.
That's
this
a little
fucking
rapey.
movie is super, like they're super rapey.
I mean, this is like what we're just saying is, nobody has really seen these movies. So yeah, let's dig in. The first one is the primest example because even if somebody talks about Mad Max, and even if they think I feel like people know that there are 3 Mad Max movies.
Yeah, they do.
And like it's a trilogy and like they know like what some of the stuff looks like. But especially this one, they're like, this is not the movie I thought it was. They think, the Road Warrior is Mad
It's a trilogy in the same way that like The Evil Dead is a trilogy. Like
Just
it's like
gonna say that. You took
great.
the words right out of my mouth.
every movie is a little bit different.
But also Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2 are kind of the same movie,
right?
Just done
Remade,
better.
yeah.
And I feel that that's the same thing with Mad Max and the Road Warrior. I feel like even though he didn't like redo the story, it's a continuation of the story. Technically, it's not really. It's a very different movie, and I think it's more like this is what I could do if I had a little more money or a little more success.
Right.
Or now I got confidence. Mel Gibson has a little confidence as an actor.
I think they realized that like maybe the best parts of the first one we could make into one
full-length movie.
Yeah.
No, that's what I mean. I mean, like, for a long time, I watched Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2 as separate movies. And then I saw the play on Broadway.
You saw that?
Yeah, it was great. And when, like, at one point during the play, they're doing Evil Dead 1. And then at one point during the play, the guide brings the daughter there. And that's from Evil Dead 2.
Right.
And then, like, they stop the play, and they're like, yeah, get over it, all right? It's fucking 2 different movies, but it's the same fucking movie. Yeah. And then they go back to acting. And it was like a cool break in the action where they merged the 2 movies because it was the same movie, basically. At one point, it dovetails.
It does,
And so they brought it to that point. And then they were like, yeah, we get it. Like, it's a joke. Like, wink, wink.
Yeah.
And so
it's
I
like,
think...
And it's also like, who fucking cares?
But that's like that's it. I think like they sat back and they were like, we're going to let you do a sequel. And he's like, okay, great. What was the best part of this experience? And now you got a guy like Mel Gibson, a young actor who probably felt a little better about himself after he was getting, some acclaim.
Well, even when Road Warrior came out, he wasn't really a big actor.
No, I mean in Australia though.
Oh,
people,
sure.
People were like, "That's fucking Mel Gibson."
But
That's
Mad
Max, like
Mad Max blew up. I mean, like that's the thing is like, most people don't really know is that movie was one of the biggest movies like ever.
Yeah,
when it came out.
But that's what I mean. Like, could you imagine being a young actor and you're like unsure of yourself, and then you get that validation?
Sure,
it probably inspires you to deliver a different performance, not a better performance, a different performance.
He's 21 years old in Mad Max.
He looks it too.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, he's impossibly young. Is how I kept as I was watching that first one.
He looked so young in these movies. He probably liked Jewish people.
He hadn't developed his bigotry yet.
Hatred had not developed. He was so
I was
young.
thinking that would come later, but I think we just get it out of the way first. It's good.
But so I felt very much. I'm like, even I remember discovering Mad Max at some point and being like, this isn't what I thought Mad Max was. Sort of. This movie's very different.
I watched it on HBO for the first time. I'll never forget it. I watched it.
This one?
Yeah. We used to go to Montauk on family vacations. My grandfather used to have a timeshare in Montauk every summer.
Ooh.
Gurney's Inn. It was a big place at the end of Montauk, big, beautiful resort. And my grandfather used to have a timeshare there every summer. And we would go for a week. And the cool thing about it was they had HBO in the rooms. And it was like 1983, 84. And Fraggle Rock was on.
Hell yeah.
And so when we'd go home and we'd be like, you're a fucking terrible dad because you don't have Fraggle Rock here. Like we'd berate our father
awesome.
and be like, "You get HBO for Fraggle Rock, God damn it!" And like I remember being 5 years old, and in the same weekend, I watched Halloween 3.
Yes.
Season of the Witch.
Yeah,
Season of the Witch.
and Mad Max. While people were not paying attention to me in the room watching TV.
That's great.
We had like an apartment. It was like a 2-bedroom suite, and like I'd be in the living room with this HBO box, and it was like 7:00, and like I'd be like, they don't know I'm watching this. Is amazing. This fucking mask just came alive. And then when this came on at 9, they were like, you should go to bed. I was like, I'm gonna watch this movie. Okay. And then like fucking toe cutter and crazy shit going on. I was like, oh,
Remember the night, right?
it's fucking creepy, man.
So I tried to watch this one, much like you were saying, like it's different. So I tried to separate this from the rest, from what I thought of Mad Max after, and just sort of watch this as a movie in and of itself. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. More so than I think I ever have. This one, it is sort of like the worst title ever. Like Mad Max. Like it's so goofy sounding.
This is that we don't know better shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is.
I mean, but it's perfect.
But that's literally. It was an accident. Like somebody was like, I don't know, is fucking Mad Max.
Sounds like
Let's call it Mad Mix. What
it's
do you
like
think?
he's Kid Chameleon, or some other alliteration,
Yeah.
or Zach the Lego Maniac, or like, it's goofy.
But it feels right for the time that it was made.
It's perfect.
That like in 1979 in Australia, after they're having this like renaissance after Nicholas Roeg did like Walkabout in those movies, they are
This one blew it up too.
This one
like
actually
Australian New Wave, right?
The Ausploitation movement.
Exploitation.
Yeah. So like,
You sound like a filmmaker or something.
well, Mad Dog Morgan was probably like the most.
That's the Dennis Hopper movie.
Dennis
I
Hopper.
fucking love that movie,
Yeah.
man. They made a lot of exploitation movies
Yeah,
there.
there's some good ones. Like if you watch in the 70s, and I would recommend watching Not Quite Hollywood, which is a documentary about Ausploitation.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally watch
Awesome.
that
They
movie.
did a bunch of like the beach movies.
It's amazing.
They did like a bunch of beach blanket kind of movies, like
So-
the 60s movies.
Yeah, so if you want the context for where Mad Max came out of, that was it, which is like not just Australia, but everywhere was having these weird like film explosions of money just flowing around, and people that just had went to film school because the studio system was pretty dead at this point, so they were like just doing whatever. And so in Australia, George Miller, who was a doctor at this point,
Right, crazy. Like an
He-
ER doctor.
Fuck this
right,
guy.
something.
Like, like
Seriously.
rub it in your face.
Yeah, you're right.
I could barely be an adult, and this guy is like a fucking fully functioning auteur.
worked in an ER, and so he just generates the idea to make a couple movies. So he did what was something of violence? I can't remember. It was
Yeah, just before. Yeah, but
Yeah, so
this
he
was
did-
pretty much it. Like
this was
he
his
started,
first
yeah.
feature. Yeah, that he went in with Byron Kennedy, and they
And it is it's experimental in a lot of ways,
Sure.
but also like super by the numbers, like film schooly in a lot of ways. A lot of the ways they frame shots and the way things are paced. It's it's film schooly of that era, which is a little bit more old fashioned.
Sure.
It's got like a little bit more of a classic structure to it.
very new wave
Paced
influence
out,
too. Like it's French new wave
Small
cinema.
like almost no dialogue, like really in the whole thing.
Well, that was like, and then to go back to what you said though, like a lot of the shit is like heavy handed because they're like they don't fucking know any better.
No.
Like his name, Max Retrospective. It's like
Rockatansky.
what the fuck is that?
I
Like,
don't-
like
I don't think any one of us will say it right. And
and then let's be honest though, like if they want to approve something for the new Batman vs Superman movie, there's like 72 guys in a circle. Like it looks
Sure.
like Doctor Strangelove. They're in a conference room somewhere, and they're like somebody brings up a point of order. They take a fucking vote, and somehow, some way, they give Batman nipples on his suit or something. Like things.
Great choice.
But things like that go through like. So like I'm
Yeah.
amazed because I'm like, how many fucking people signed off on that piece of shit idea, right? This was like 3 guys.
Yeah.
And they were like, Max needs a last name. He's like, I don't fucking know Roshansky. I'm trying to shoot this shot, And
You say
somebody
Rockatansky or what?
Yeah, and 6 people wrote it 6 different ways and played like Australian telephone until.
and that's how he's Mad Max. And like it is a bit of an ignorance to be that gutsy, because like I feel like with a committee, you're like, you can't call it Mad Max. That sounds fucking like it's kiddie shit. Like you
Right.
can't do that. But it also
But
works.
he's not even that mad all the time. He's like
No,
happy
he's
and
totally
family
normal.
orientated in the
Well,
first
yeah,
movie.
so in the first-
He's got to get mad.
Yeah, he's like
Get Mad Max.
He's
That's
sort
the
of
shit.
angry, unsatisfied, maybe. Max,
disillusioned Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, disillusion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this movie has me at hello.
The opening scene is awesome.
I feel like the opening scene is sort of it could just be a little short movie, like in and of itself, and I do sort of think that the rest of the movie isn't as good as that opening scene, even though I like a lot of it.
The last act is pretty good.
I think they used to do that too. I think they used to rely on the dailies a lot more.
Yeah.
And I bet you like they probably shot that scene early on and they were probably like, you could do whatever the fuck you want. You got this. We're gonna go back. Here's your investment, like whatever, a couple $100,000, whatever it costs, whatever they got to do it.
It was
like low budget.
$350 to $400 is the estimate.
But like to me, that was probably like will you leave me alone now?
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I just take you through it if you guys remember. It's like I remember I was just watching it like in awe of how perfect it was paced out. And it starts with that guy like just peeping on those nude people. Well, it's just grass first. Like it's completely quiet. And then you compare it to like the end of that scene where it's like it couldn't be any louder of intensity. And you see the halls of justice, which is very comic booky, obviously, in ruins. And then it's that, and then you eventually see like a little cut of it's Max, but like you just see like sort of part of him, and he's sort of like, washing his hands.
He's gonna be the guy to go to.
He's washing his hands in dirt, like as just like, but you don't see him. You just see like a little part of him, And then as it progresses, you see him a little bit more. Like first, it's like. It's 2 minutes, and then maybe you'll see him again. He's putting his boots on one at a time, and he's hearing the radio sort of blasting, of the impending chase with the Knight Rider. The Knight Rider,
which is great. Nobody talks about the fact that they fucking stole that name and made a show out of it.
Sure,
like pretty great.
It's very true.
The show Knight Rider. Yeah, it's great. It's like you hear over the radio. There's a cop killer, and then you have those two guys.
Yeah.
And then it's just from the moment that the movie starts, it kind of sets up just where the whole series is going to go.
Totally.
Because nothing kind of goes right for anyone. Where like the guy that has the rifle is like trying to get into the driver's seat. He's like, "Let me drive."
Yeah.
And it's just like they can't even commit to fighting the crime the way that they want to, and so it just society is doomed. Is essentially what I see from the beginning.
It's the buildup is beautiful, and like you start getting little. More shots of Max, like a little more of a reveal of his body and like his awesome costume that he's wearing, and they have an accident, right? And like you lose the cops and finally like they gotta call Max.
You
in.
get to see the Interceptor for the first
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally like Max is like, they're like, oh, we gotta call Max in, and like it's all this build up to this character who you have fucking no idea who he is, but the movie's called Mad Max. You're like, I guess this is the guy. This must be the Mad Max.
He's very he's the Han Solo of this. Like, we gotta call him.
I mean, he's everything. He's the man with no name. So almost sort of
certainly more in the later movies, but this
he and then so he speeds up to the Knight Rider, right? And Knight Rider instantly starts sobbing because like he knows he's fucked.
It's over, right? Yeah.
Like. He knows like Max is like right on him. He can't go any faster, and there's nothing he can do. He's just like pull over, and then what? He crashes, and his eyeballs explode. Right?
Well, it's only him and Toe Cutter where you get that eyeball pop shot, which is crazy weird, but it works as like almost like a jokey exploitation.
Well, and again,
shot.
like I think they were like, I could do this thing.
Yeah.
Where can we fit this in the movie? Like, I want to use this eye pop thing. And it's like, why not do it here?
It's great.
Okay. But this is the kind of shit you can't do. Well, I shouldn't say that. This is the kind of stuff that people tell you can't do anymore. And then, like, filmmakers who are going to film school. Like you said, this fucking guy was a doctor who was like, probably, like, liked film and, like, kind of, and he was, like, into it. And so he kind of...
he was smart and figured out how to do it.
Found a way to do it. You got a guy who's like been getting, browbeat for 3 years in film school about, fucking how to make a movie.
Then
when they go to make the movie, they're like, I gotta do it that way. I can't do it that way. Like, we can't shoot this scene. And the people who seem to be the most successful are the people who say, fuck that. Like, let's just do it.
Let's just crash a car through my van.
And that's that was like George Miller's van apparently. That got there's a bunch of damage in that early whole scene. So then his eyeballs explode, and then Max comes out from around the car, and you finally get like the full hero shot of him. Dun dun dun.
He runs up in concern though.
Yeah, no, he's like, what happens? Like, and it's like. You don't have any idea who he is, but you're somewhat happy to see him. You know that this is your guy, and it's also in retrospect like it's the introduction of Mel Gibson. You're
Yeah.
like, here's Mel Gibson. He's 21 years old and he's going to take over the world. And yeah, he's so goddamn young, impossibly young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Impossible young.
he looks so fucking, it's so weird because he's one of those guys that I felt like he had like a good 20, 25 years where he looked the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, he's starting to look a little older now, but even when you see him, like when I saw him in that Edge of Darkness,
Yeah.
I was like, it could have been Lethal Weapon 3. You know, I was like separated by
Well,
15 years.
Just give him a wig.
Yeah.
No,
Just give
but
him
I mean,
that
like,
long
no,
hair.
like he doesn't look much older in
Yeah.
that movie than, you know, and I'm sure that's that character and the way he was, you know, dressed. But like, or Get the Gringo, when I saw Get the
Sure.
Gringo, I was like, oh, wow, like he doesn't look bad. Like he, you know, when they threw him in the fucking Mexican prison, you were like, this fucking 70-year-old guy is going to get raped. You know, like he looked like he
Right.
could handle himself. And to me, that's like a, you know, that's a male actor thing. Like I think there's people, they have that the young phase, they have that 30-year middle of their career
Yeah.
where you know.
And this was his young phase,
this
to
was
be
his-
sure. By the third movie, I'd say he's more into the. Yeah.
What's crazy to think is that in the third movie where he kind of looks like full Mel Gibson, right? Like that's the movie where you're like,
Yeah.
this is Mel Gibson.
Right.
This is as we know him. He's like 27 years
That's
old.
like
Yeah,
85,
it's only
right?
still-
That's like 85 or something.
Exactly,
like
it's
that.
85.
Yeah.
It's only 6 years.
He's 27 years old.
Bug the fuck out, you know? Like think about that. That's fucking 30 years ago.
That's crazy.
They did make him look older, and we'll get into that one when we get to it. But yeah, so like I love the movie even up to like if the rest of the movie was just them taking shits on the floor, I would have been like, it's still an awesome movie.
Pretty
Kind of
much,
is, yeah.
that's pretty much the movie. You watched it recently, I see. So my son, I talk about him all the time on this show. My son Mike is 12 years old. He just turned 12, and he has an unconventional childhood in terms of exposure to movies. He's watched a lot of classic movies. He finds a lot of stuff on his own. I have a huge DVD collection. He goes to it and he gravitates to what he wants. And for some reason, this has never really come up.
Yeah.
And then with the Fury Road stuff, he was like, what is this? You know, like he's like, what's this movie going to be? And I was like, you should watch him, watch him beforehand. I'll watch him with you. Let's do it, And so we watched this first movie, and the first scene is a hook.
Yeah.
But then it kind of falls
It
off
goes to
the
the
action
family.
cliff.
Like,
it's
goes to the
definitely
family
weird
scene.
for a kid too, like 'cause
and
it's a dark
he,
movie.
and like I said, he sat through some pretty interesting period movies. Like he's
Yeah.
not just a recent kid. He could watch older movies and appreciate them, but he kind of just was like, it's like a different movie.
Yeah.
The first 15 minutes and then the rest of the movie
Yeah,
are
yeah.
kind of, it's like a letdown almost in the sense that, and like, when I was watching it, I haven't seen this movie probably in 15 years,
Same, yeah.
right? And so I was watching, I was like, this fucking movie sucks. Like, this movie's not good. Like, because we know,
You're right.
What
what
the
they
other
can
ones,
do.
yeah.
I've seen Mel Gibson do amazing things. And so I'm like, this is not even one of his, top 40 performances. And then I say to myself, when you put it in context, it is. It's
It
like
is.
it's amazing. It's the first for a
It's an
first
incredible
performance,
first movie.
I
A-
agree.
A first-time filmmaker, like absolutely incredible.
And to have the balls to just kind of destroy cars and say like,
Yeah.
let's just have a fucking. There's a scene. Okay, this is the thing. There's a scene when like Toe Cutter and his gang and all those guys are introduced and they're going to pick up the coffin and then they're like parking. There's a scene where like they pull up on the motorcycles, and then the gang kind of disbands, and two of the guys start waltzing with each other
Yeah.
in the road.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, all right, well, regardless of how much like the little things are kind of bug me
No,
about
it's
this movie,
bizarre.
that is crazy interesting.
That early scene when they're in the police station, there's like a guy in samurai gear,
Like just
like
fucking with it's a move. Like honestly, I think George Miller, and that's what you're seeing in this new one, is like it's just like fucking with you imagery.
Well, and then I also think that's part of the downfall of this movie is that
Right.
it starts too strong.
Yeah,
I
I
hate
think
to
you're
say
right.
that. That
Yeah.
sounds dumb, but like the first 20, 25 minutes, even so you have the original scene with the Knight Rider, and then you have the funeral / pick up the body scene
Yeah.
with the introduction to the rest of the gang,
Right.
and then that like I'm gonna fucking get you type thing, and then the whole thing at the police station. All of that happens in the first half hour. So what are you left with? You're left with, now you meet his family and you meet the wife, and it seems to like turn into almost like a melodrama.
Yes.
It's like you started way too high.
Yeah.
Usually movies, and that's inexperience. That's not, that's true. And for the best, George Miller, God bless you for not knowing any better. Because if you would have paced it the right way, introduced us to the character, and then built to that, it would have been like, okay, that's cool.
It's interestingly paced. You're right. There may be something a little off, but
There's
like
a big lull in the fucking middle.
It's worth it. I think.
They run that kid over.
That first family scene at the place where they're kind of like introducing that Max has a family
Right.
and this is his thing. After watching the opening, it felt like a brick wall.
Yeah,
I was like,
totally.
whoa. I was like, I'm kind of checking out now.
I get what they were doing, but the opening was almost too good.
Imagine if you were fucking 12. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'd be like, fuck this guy. I hope they kill his wife right now, you know?
But I think it's a great first movie, and like I feel like it's, you know, even again, maybe people haven't seen the whole series overall, but people know that there are 3 movies, and it is like sold as a trilogy. So if I look at something like the El Mariachi trilogy, like people usually kind of forget that first one because that's like a student film, but like this, like Mad Max stands up strong, you know, like, and like they kept the same guy in it too, even, you know,
same thing with Evil Dead. Like, I know a lot of people think they know that Evil Dead 1, and they don't know that you're watching Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
You've been watching it for years and calling it Evil Dead, and it's not fucking Evil Dead. Like, cut it out. You know, like people don't realize that there's a break, you know, like there's some kind of a difference.
But it's that kind of success that you can have just experimenting like that, or Evil Dead, you know, like that can get you the next movie, which is great. And if you can move into that direction, you can, you know, take that $350,000 and then make a $5 million to $10 million movie.
Well, and that's the thing. And like people look back on it and say, oh, experimentation.
Right.
And it's like, at the time, it was not an experimentation. At the time, it was fucking life or death for
That's all
this
you
guy.
could do, yeah.
This guy's like, I just fucking quit my job as a doctor, guys. Get your fucking shit together and crash this car right, or else we're going to be fucking unemployed. Like, you know, like Kevin Smith was literally, you know, on the balls of his ass, owing everybody in the world money. But, you know, he borrowed all that money and put all that money on his credit. That, to me, is the people who succeed. The people who put it out there. But then, like, they always look back and they're like, these fucking guys were experimental and they were innovators. And they were like, these fucking guys barely knew that they woke up in the morning. Like, you know, they were so inundated with shit that, like, I'm sure George Hill was doing, he was probably doing a million things on that fucking set.
Oh, I'm sure.
Besides directing.
I'm sure he's doing everything.
He might have driven one of those cars.
Probably.
You know, like, I'm sure he was an extra in a scene.
Well,
I'm sure all of those things. So it's like, it's revisionist history. You know,
you know, and you're right. They looked at all the resources that they had. They realized that they could crash X amount of cars, that they could hire all these biker gangs that and there was a lot of biker movies before that. I mean, I've seen a ton of shitty biker movies. So to see like the whole bike gang element here makes sense, but it also makes sense in the next movie that like they kind of move on from
100%
bikers into like bikers and dune buggies and stuff.
It's
like
very biker-esque 70s movie. I thought it had a lot of like a Billy Jack, like those series sort of things, you know, which is cool. I dig those.
But you know what always gets me about these kind of movies is like, so there's a gas shortage.
Yeah.
So everybody rides motorized vehicles.
Well, you know,
like, where's all the fucking bikes? Like, I want to see the bike gang. Like, I want to see the Huffy bike gang. These motherfuckers, like, we don't need no fuel. We just kill for fun.
You can go watch Solar Babies.
But you don't know. But the truth of the matter is, like, where is the fucking roller skate gang? Like, where are they?
Prayer of the Roller
Like, these fucking dummies are literally robbing to get to the next robbery. Like, we have enough gas to get to the next robbery. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're not robbing food. You're robbing gas to put in your car to drive to the... Like, I never understood that.
Well, in the first one, they're robbing like tankers that are driving, right? So they do that thing where they slingshot over.
It's like Fast and Furious, man.
Yeah, it's totally. And the second one, they find a refinery that is still working, and they go to try to steal that gas.
Accidentally.
And then in the third one, they're like, we don't have a gas anymore. It's just pig shit, you know?
But like, meanwhile, what are you going to do? You get the gas, right? Even if you get a fucking refinery, right?
Sure.
Like, so now... To do what?
Yeah.
To fucking drive around?
No.
Like, nobody needs to drive no more. That's the point of not having gas.
Where you going?
Like, I wish they had, like, it would be great if they had, like, those unicycles, like a unicycle gang, guys with machetes coming through. Like,
there
like
is
random,
there are those
vehicles,
people that
you know?
have, like, some weird futuristic, like, motorcycle that has, like, a sidecar. There's, like, one scene where they're like, let's get some weird antique, like, futuristic concept motorcycle.
I want the Hang Glider gang, you know, for Fury Road. road. I want the guys to come in with like 2 samurai swords and just fucking just jump off shit and coast until the next scene.
There's some really like trippy stuff. Like it's like a bug nuts crazy like trippy movie. Like there's even when Goose gets all fucked up. Like
Love it.
Mel Gibson pulls back the thing and like it gets all purple and his eyes close in. Like it's very like psychedelically.
I will say the parts that I really loved that I think maybe are lost in the other movies is like the MFP stuff, which I think could have been really cool if they would have really committed to it. And I think Goose dies obviously way too early.
Right.
But like that
knowing they were going to be, that's the thing. Like that's not knowing.
Yeah.
That's not knowing. We're making movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they would never do that now. That character would never die that quick.
They would want to bring him in. And then his commander, who's great, that like bald dude with the huge mustache is just burly.
There's that one.
He comes over and he's just watering plants.
Yeah, he's I wrote this down. I'm like, he's smoking a cigar. He's watering plants. He's wearing leather pants. He has no shirt on and an ascot. He's listening to some sort of military music, perhaps German. He looks like that guy from Raiders, who he has the fist fight with,
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly what he looks like.
Amazing.
And then meanwhile, you're like, why does things seem so normal in this building?
Yeah.
Like right out there, like right down the road, shit is fucked up. Like,
Yeah, there is a general sense of madness, sort of like it, where they took the story. Like this does feel like a world about to end.
It does.
Pretty
it does
much,
feel like it's on the brink. Well, because it's very clear that like the cops mean nothing in this society.
I also feel like watching it again, the second movie sticks out to me more. And so I was like, I forgot about like they were not quite at that point yet.
Right.
Like the world's not quite over yet. There's still normalcy. And like him watering his plants in an office building, the fact that he's going to an office building every day, it lends credence to the idea that it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And by the time the second movie rolls around, it's pretty much fucking gone.
But I love when they show up, the Toe Cutter Gang, and they're all so weird, and like they're all sort of
fucking
like
name, Toe Cutter.
Love it. They're all sort of like the costumes and their mannerisms are all like incredibly masculine, but also feminine.
Yeah,
like,
it's bizarre.
Very what do you call it?
I guess that's gay.
David
Is
Bowie.
that gay? Is that okay? Can I say that? It might be.
It's very David Bowie.
It's very masculine.
Androgynous.
I think I may have found the most politically correct way to try to say gay.
Well, but like they, like, and I
but
also
also
feel like
feminine.
that was like very acceptable back then.
Sure.
Like, at this time period,
Yeah.
that was fucking cool.
Yeah.
We were like, I'm so fucking badass that I could be a chick too.
Yeah.
So the Toe Cutter guy, I had just learned this like today or the day before that he's in the Fury Road.
He's the guy with the mask. Yeah.
He's like the main bad guy in Fury Road.
Which is
Did you know that,
awesome.
Mike? No. He's like, I think he's
No
a
fucking clue.
he's a completely different character, as far as like we can know, but like same actor.
For a guy
Crazy.
who spends as much time on the internet as I do an excellent job of avoiding.
I feel like
shit that
most people
I
don't know
really
that.
avoid shit that I don't want to know, and like I've minimized spoilers for myself on most things, and I truly just don't read the story. Like I don't fall for the clickbait, and so like I saw the trailer. If I see it on TV, I see it on TV. Great, if I see it in the theater, I see it in the theater. But like I don't actively search that stuff out anymore because I just ruin it for myself. And to me, like a reveal like that is like.
I don't think
me
you'll
smile,
even.
you
No,
know?
I don't think it's a spoiler at all.
No, what I'm saying, but like if knowing that now, next week when I go see the movie, I'm gonna have like a little smile on my face.
Yeah.
Fucking Toe Cutter.
I was reading something and it was like it's the loyalty that George Miller has. Like he just invited him back. He's like, hey, you want to be in this? And the guy's like, all right, awesome. Make
or
movie
he
with my
only
friends.
knows like 6 people.
Could be
like
it.
Kevin Smith.
I'll be this crazy
Could be
bad
it.
guy again, 36 years later, no problem.
Well, you certainly see in all of the marketing for the new Fury Road that there's so many like homages to every one of the Mad Max films. Like seeing in the newest trailer the girl with the little like wind up thing, I was like, holy shit.
sure.
I was like, that's what is that playing Happy Birthday or what's going on here?
So Max, so the Toe Cutter Gang's pretty bad. I mean, they eventually show up and they pretty much instantly start raping. They're just raping.
super rapey,
everyone,
man. Like
you know,
70s
like-
fucking movies were rapey as shit.
Here's my question though: are they raping? Because they just seem to be like fucking with people,
Yeah.
and then they leave the girl
I
and the
think
guy
there's
there.
some raping.
I don't know.
I would venture that someone got raped.
I thought
and I
saw...
think maybe on set, like that might have happened on set because those guys seem wild for the night. That seemed
the
like
only girl they were into was that mannequin. You know?
I thought I saw when the guy was running that he like had like blood like on his
really?
ass.
Oh,
Like I was watching it in HD and I thought it looked like even he
you know
got raped.
you know what bugs me out is back then it was acceptable for them to like just get a real motorcycle gang. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that like half those guys.
So they were.
Fucking, yeah.
This
But
is
like
true.
now you'd have to like they have to be SAG members and like it would be like
Get sanctioned,
like
SAG waivers.
Yeah, and they'd be like, these fucking guys better not rape anybody, or else curtains for them. Like on that set, they were like, we brought in a few hookers to rape. Just in case if you guys get rapey, go to that trailer over there and just rape away.
Cameras rolling.
Yeah,
so just do your thing.
rape away and then come back and shoot the scene. No raping here, raping over here, no raping over here.
But like everything in the world is a little bit weird. Like even when they're at the farmhouse, like there's that lady and she has like weird braces on her legs. It looks like
For
she's
no
trying to
reason.
be taller or something. Like they must have just found this. Like, hey, put this on your. This is again informing sort of where things go in these future movies where they just grabbed everything and made it costumes. But like it's like why?
Yeah, and then like later when she like got the shotgun,
Right.
and you're like, this lady ain't getting out there fast enough.
She's badass.
Looking
But
Forrest
that
Gump,
shot is my favorite shot in the whole movie, where she just shoots and then the bikers just pass her. It's like the best shot in the
It
whole
is
movie.
awesome. But yeah, so things get pretty dark pretty fast. In this
I
movie.
love the forest. Well, she goes down sunbathing, right? And
Yeah.
it seems like they're okay. She has that confrontation in town. Toe Cutter asks the mechanic, it's like, who are those guys?
Right.
So she's going sunbathing, and then she's coming back, and she starts to hear things. Now, what's interesting is that before in her interaction with Toe Cutter's gang, they like come up behind her and they're like doing animal sounds, which was like fuck. It was so weird,
Very creepy.
so creepy. So when she's in the forest and she just hears regular animals, she starts to get
She's
paranoid. And you start to get paranoid, and then it does become paranoid.
Them guys are rapey.
They're raping.
Those guys
You
are
see them
rapey.
running around. But I love that build up into Toe Cutter's just there waiting for
I
them.
wanted to
That
say
was
to her,
great.
like, didn't you ever see I Spit on Your Grave? Don't go to the lake.
No.
Don't go
Yeah.
down
Never
by
go
the
down by the lake.
Don't go to the lake.
It's bad, and the whole chase and when they get her is terrible. I watching it again though, and I shouldn't care, but like, why does she run just straight on
Down
the
the street,
highway?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
just go off and you're gonna like just go off in the road, the dirt.
Yeah.
You know what's pretty interesting? I got that feeling when I was watching it again that like she must have fucked herself up during that scene, like fucking physically. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
how hard it is to make it look like you're running, like
Yeah.
not with no care, but like having you got to run from point A to point B. The guy's filming you, and so you're kind of following a path, but you got to run like as if you're running with reckless abandon. When you try to control your actions, usually is when you get hurt. Like as an athlete,
yeah, she's holding that kid
and
too,
as an
yeah.
athlete, they tell you like the minute you try to compensate, you usually get hurt. So if you have a bad knee and you're like, oh, I'll work on this knee, I'll put more stress, then you hurt the other knee. So like she must have fell like 100 times. Like,
Yeah.
she must have
God,
fucked
yeah.
herself up so many
Yeah.
times filming that scene.
Probably.
And like it looks so great, and you're like, it's got to be edited pretty good.
It is.
She does not look so athletic,
Yeah.
That's super fucking Jackie Joyner Kersey right there.
So things
you know?
start picking up a little in the movie. Then I mean, now Max is legit mad. I'd say
Fully. That's the last 20 minutes. That's because she dies about 20 minutes before the
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
Legit mad. He goes and he gets his car, the MFP or whatever it calls. The
Interceptor.
the awesome interceptor thing.
Always one of them.
And there's that cool fuel tanker heist, which I was like, this is totally ripped off. The Fast and Furious movie totally ripped this off.
Like my son turned to me and he was like, when did this movie come out? And I was like, you fucking say it, I'll punch you. I'll fucking punch you. Because he
30
watches
years before.
He watches all those
Yeah.
movies and he loves those movies. And he was like, it's the same scene. Like he knows it. He knows
Yeah.
it's like, but that's an homage, Like that's a fucking
No, it's fine. Who cares? Yeah.
No, but I mean, like, I guarantee you that guy loved fucking Mad Max. I guarantee you, whoever wrote that script.
Every filmmaker who does anything cool loves Mad Max. For
That's
sure.
true.
I think that's true.
But then he
That's
so
why
then
I'm
he
not a filmmaker.
he
That's
gets
a solid point.
injured, right? And he hurts his leg, and
That's
he has
great.
his limp is he has it in all the movies kind of after that. I bet I don't know if Tom Hardy's gonna have it, but he probably should have his little. I feel like that became a trademark thing for Max. And then he's like driving around the countryside, and there's no sound. It's only music. Like this movie goes crazy places.
The music was crazy.
Yeah, it's all over. And then obviously that cutting off the ankle ending is so badass.
Well, when you don't have anybody telling you this is how to do it, you do it, and it just comes out. Like it just ends up.
And the music is like the ending credits music is really weird. It's like it's like a Lifetime movie ending music. It comes out of nowhere. And you're like, what the fuck
that's
is
like,
this movie?
you know, like that's like you could imagine like early on in Quentin Tarantino's career, people telling him like, you can't use these songs. And he'd be like, no, there's a reason. Like I have a reason. And like maybe it was unintentional originally, but now he purposely is including music that, you know, like that's his trademark now. Whereas like I'm sure people were probably concerned with them finishing the movie, not like his choice in musical. But that nuance makes the movie what it is when you watch it now. My son's like, what, this fucking nonsense makes no sense. Like, you know, and it's like, that's 12. You're 12. It doesn't make sense to you.
It's a ball of crazy.
Totally. And the homages that you're talking about, Mike, are like, as we get into these more movies now, like people just started ripping it off. And like, I feel like George Miller he sort of invented the post-apocalyptic sort of movie.
He did, yeah.
And even that you would call something a Mad Max style that he's not gotten any. So finally, you know, so now he's making Fury Road. He's like, I'm going to cash in on this Mad Max style.
Well, and as he should, like, you know, and then like people who say that that's dumb or that's not right, it's like, you're a fucking dick. Like this is what he should be doing.
Totally.
Like he should not, like, first of all, he wrote Babe. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why weren't you writing this movie fucking that's what you should be writing this. Like, write these guys fucking raping.
But
you know, like,
this
you
is
should
the
write rape
trajectory
so
of his
well.
life.
How many rip-off like shitty post-apocalyptic movies through the 80s, and then even movies now that aren't really ripping it off, but are just, you know,
Well,
he should sue them the way that like George Romero should sue like everybody's made a zombie movie, you know,
or like the way this whole thing with the music stuff, this Tom
Robin
Petty
Thicke,
inspires, you know, this or
right.
And you're like, come on, man, like I've been a big Marvin Gaye fan my whole life. My music might sound like Marvin Gaye.
It is
like,
what it
there's
is.
Nothing wrong with that. Like that's always been like that. But like, there's a movie called Bellflower. I don't know if you guys ever seen this movie. Oh, you'll really like it. It's this guy, and he's just another example to my point before. The guy's name who made it, I met him when he was doing the press for it. His name is Evan Gladell. And he was, you know, University of Wisconsin film student and was like, fuck this, dropped out of school, shot this movie for $17,000 in California. And it was the South by Southwest champion that year. It got distribution. P. Diddy walked up to him at the screening at South by Southwest and gave him a check for $300,000 to market the movie.
That's awesome.
Like literally that happened at South by Southwest. Like Puffy saw the movie, it was like, I'll back it.
Wow.
You got me. And he fucking, it's crazy. It's about these two kids, and they build these Mad Max inspired, like they're trying to build an interceptor. That's the goal.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, they're best friends. And then it's like relationship movie. It's a weird indie movie, but the overwhelming thing is throughout the movie, they're preparing for an apocalypse. And like they have flamethrowers, they're building like these gadgets, and it's all based on their love for Mad Max.
It's called Bellflower.
Bellflower.
I gotta watch this.
And so they build the car. And then, like, when the guy eventually goes off the fucking deep end because he can't take his life anymore, he's like, it's fucking Mad Max time. And he starts fucking going nuts. And it's crazy. And they shot this movie, like, micro budget, like $17,000. And it goes back to what I said before. The people you don't tell what to do the best shit.
Yeah.
And, like, to me, you get, like, something like the Fast and the Furious movie is, like, a studio ripoff type thing.
Right.
He does it. He's clearly ripping it off, but it's such a cool way that you're like, George Miller probably was like, good for fucking him, you know?
Yeah.
And when I met him, he was like, yo, it's my favorite movie ever. And like you said,
That's cool.
most people who want to make that movie are the fans of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
So when I talked to him, I was like, what made you do that? And he was like, you could have picked anything as an inspiration. He's like, well, Clash of the Titans wouldn't have worked, you know? That's exactly what he said to me. He's like, I was like, good
That's
shit,
awesome.
you know? Like the Kraken wouldn't have worked. And I was like,
It's true though. Like Mad Max, I think, just to bring that up again, it kind of feels like a movie that you could do, right?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like a movie that, like,
Dude, I felt that way. I'm like, I might be risking my life probably at times, but I'm like, I think I could sort of understand how they did this. Yeah.
and so it is a good movie.
Hang my hand out of a car with a camera, you know, maybe, you know.
Yeah, you
drop
could figure
that
it out.
camera, we fucking replace that camera.
Yeah, you can, no problem, easy. But yeah, I think it does inspire people to go like, oh, a movie can kind of be anything.
Well, and then like it doesn't have to be the Mad Max type movie. Like
No.
you get a movie like Gareth Edwards' Monsters,
Sure.
which is the same thing. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna make a monster movie, never show any monsters,
Yeah.
and fucking just build tension through surrounding.
Yeah.
They fucking dropped him off in Mexico with a camera and a car, and he filmed that whole movie. And it's like, dude, like that's
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like he maxed out a Best Buy credit card and bought the equipment to go do it.
And then
Like
you got Godzilla, and now he's on Star Wars.
and
so.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's a progression, and it's like fuck, like and again, if you talk to that guy, I bet you he'd be like fucking Mad Max. Like
Yeah, I
those are
bet
the
you're
guys.
right.
And it's not because the movie's good, because the movie's not good. It's not a great movie from total, especially
you see the
like
seams.
when you look back at George Miller's movies. Like he's made some fucking great movies. These, this movie shouldn't be.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
because it's so early.
Well, it is what it is. It's honest.
In
you know?
context, it is a great movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it sucks.
So the next one, 1981, Mad Max
Are we
2.
gonna just skip over this whole they kill this fucking baby?
Well, they ran over the baby. Yeah. Well, she should have ran off to the side. Yeah.
That shit is outrageous.
They
Like,
did. They killed
Well,
kids in
yeah.
it. Yeah. You're
And
right.
like my son turned around and was like,
It's dark,
he
man.
looked at me like he was like, and this is a kid who has seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is a kid who has lived through the most wild out shit, in his life. He's seen aliens. He's seen everything there is to see in terms of like shock cinema. And like he turned around and looked at me and he was like, and they're gonna just kill this kid? Like after all this shit, they're just gonna kill him? And he was like, come on. He's like, let's watch the second one right now. And we watched the second one right back to back. Like we did.
It's dark, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he gets so mad. He's very mad.
Well, you
I'd
see
be
the
fucking
little,
mad, too.
See the little shoe and the little rattle. That's all you need. It's just implied
Yeah.
violence.
And again, because he's like, we can't kill a fucking
no,
kid.
obviously,
Does anybody have a spare kid? No. All right, we'll just shoot the shoe and the rattle.
it
I
is
guess.
Australia.
Yeah.
The kid's definitely dead. I think the woman is alive for like a little while, but they're like, she's not going to
She
make
goes to the
it.
hospital,
Yeah.
and then they're like, she's not going to make it. And,
And
it's
it-
like, tell him he's going to be all right.
His Australian
It's
accent
good.
is spot on. It's not as good as when you do your voices.
No,
you haven't done voices
I
in a
can't
while,
do the
Rob.
Australian
But you haven't
one,
done
no.
voices. This is going on for a couple of episodes. I've been waiting.
I'll see if I get something.
I've been trying to throw you some bait, and you're not falling for it anymore. But he, I definitely feel like that's a pretty fucking powerful thing.
Yeah.
Murdering kids is always like tough.
The,
It's like,
the Australian accent thing too. Like I'd only seen this movie with the American dub for.
Oh yeah.
It's only been relatively recently that the Australian one showed up, and it's so much better. You
Oh
know,
my God, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
and then that's like not a big deal anymore. Back then, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
But
stupid.
like, and then like we were talking. He directed a segment on the Twilight Zone movie.
the best
Yeah,
segment
a
ever.
great
Yeah,
segment,
yeah.
And then but then that it's ironic with the whole killing kids thing.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
It's something we've talked about a lot on this podcast.
He's no John Landis.
That was
No,
a different
no.
segment.
But like John Landis kills kids for real.
And he
guys,
gets
he's
off.
like he's George Miller in the real. Like
Yeah.
he's like fuck you, George Miller.
And he's going to beat the justice system.
So in Mad Max 2, 1981, or Mad Max: The Road Warrior, or just
Or
the
just
Road
The Road
Warrior,
Warrior,
just
yeah.
the Road Warrior as it was here.
Like I said, the mistaking movie that everybody calls Mad Max.
Is
Yeah.
the Road Warrior.
In
It's
America,
'cause
yeah.
we didn't have it as Mad Max 2. Or we did.
It was
It's
just the
weird.
Road Warrior here in the States because they were like, most people don't know it,
Yeah.
but we want to release it for real, so we don't want to make it a sequel because sequels are really bad news. Then,
Yeah.
Well,
for
and
sure.
also let's not forget this is pre VHS.
That's correct.
That's true.
So
yeah.
82, 83 is VHS Big's push.
So
The-
81
all the
is-
the mom
Oh,
and
yeah.
pops are opening up. So the 79 movie,
No, yeah, no.
it would eventually get put on VHS, but they were, when they made it, they were like, they don't even have
We've
VHS,
talked about
you
this
know?
before, and this movie has a recap, and I talked about it on the Rocky movies. Like the first 20 minutes of every Rocky movie is the end of the last Rocky
Right,
movie.
yeah.
Like they don't do that at all anymore. Like really recaps
Yeah,
of
like, you got
previous
Wikipedia
movies.
for that.
Yeah,
You
you'll
lazy
see it.
motherfucker.
Yeah,
you could
come
do
on.
it while you're online for popcorn.
But
Read it.
just stream it on Netflix and be fine.
But the American one, has that whole recap, and it does, like, it's all in continuity. It's not like a reboot at all. It's like that was the world, and it ended. He lost his family, and here we are, Road Warrior. It's gotten fucking worse and weirder, and somebody raided a fucking sporting goods store.
So the first thing you notice, right, is like cinematography goes from 0 to 200. It's like you go from like this rough cinematography, like gritty, I just have a camera and I can shoot it, to like an amazing shot.
Beautiful.
Like gorgeous shots.
I like to call this the I'm a filmmaker moment.
It is.
Where like like for a long time, you making your
he got some money. He got some more
but
money.
like when you're making your first movie, you're like, your friends are probably like, you're a doctor. No, he's like, no, I'm a movie maker now. I make films. You're a fucking doctor.
Sure,
You're a
George. Whatever you say.
Doctor. You know, and then all of a sudden you're like, filmmaker. You know, and it's like, I'm a fucking filmmaker. Like now you can say that. You could be like, no, we're not going to shoot it that way because I've done it and I know it's not going to look good that way. And somebody has to turn around and be like, this guy makes movies. Like he's done it. You know, so like I think like I'm a teacher. And I'll always consider myself to be a teacher. But if I were to divert and go into a different thing, if I had success in that, then at some point I'd stop being a teacher and I'd start being a filmmaker. And this is when he became a filmmaker.
Yeah, well, he got the money too. Like,
oh, then that helps. Like
it was like 400 grand he had for the first one.
Yeah.
It was like 5 million or something, I think. For
and
the
they
second
give you access to studios and cameras and crews and
he
this
knows
and
how
that.
to use them because he knows how to use it for no money.
And he switches up his DP immediately, like his cinematographer.
Yeah.
Like he's like, well, thanks.
I love
for-
you, but
This is great. And then that guy went on.
That guy had to get back to work as a janitor in fucking the hospital.
Well, the first guy, I think he DP'd Pitch Black actually. So like
that's cool.
He worked, but the
I
newest
love that
guy
movie. I love the way that movie looks.
is
too.
great.
I
The
wouldn't
newest.
say he worked. He made a movie in 1979 and he made a movie in 1999.
Well, I mean, I don't want to bring up his whole IMDb page, but he's been. He also shot Eurotrip, so
That's good enough for me.
He's been around. He made 4 movies in the last 30 years.
so he's there. He's looking for work if you have work.
And his janitor career is still
He's
solid.
shooting the podcast.
He's
today.
at PS 103. Check him out.
He's manning our podcast cameras. Yeah.
PS1.
But the second one is amazing, and I think the guy's name is Dean Semler. He's the DP there. He's an amazing cinematographer. I mean, he just did Maleficent, so he's
Great.
still this visual guy.
It was a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't care for it, but it was beautiful.
Well, I think what you see is like, okay, well, let's go in and kind of reconfigure what we've done with Mad Max. It's
some of my favorite sequels are movies. The sequels that are just like completely different than the last one. I love that. You know, when they really go for it. You know, it's interesting.
This might, if you don't say anything else about this fucking movie, this is the greatest name for a bad guy in the history of the world. And this comes from a movie with the bad guys, the Knight Rider and the Toe Cutter. Great names, like
Greetings from the humongous.
Yep, exactly.
It is amazing. And then like I kept saying it to my son over and over again, like the humongous, and like he was like, "Yeah, it's weird. It's not like he's not the
not
humongous.
humongous.
He's the humongous." And I was like, "Yeah, it's great." And then like I think the Sucklord guy that we were talking about before, I think he did a figure. He did a figure.
Oh, Sucklord?
He did a humongous figure, and it was like this cool. He used a cool card, because like his cards are the best part of his figures, and he did a cool humongous figure.
I'll check that out.
Which is dope. I mean, but like I always gravitate, and he looks
The Lord
so
humongous.
cool. The Lord humongous.
I think I read, which I did not know, that it was that was supposed to be Goose, was supposed to be the humongous.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the only thing left is like sometimes you can see a little bit of burns under his mask,
Right.
a little, like that. There was supposed to be him still burned, but they dropped that wisely, I think, probably.
It's probably. I like that was the inclination, but I like that there's this mystery behind it. Like you're watching
and it's
this movie,
and you never find out.
No.
Like he's just the humongous. It's fine.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, was he Bane? Was he not like the basis for Bane?
I also saw an
maybe.
interview with what's his name from Eastbound and Down, Danny McBride.
Kenny Powers?
Yeah, Danny McBride was doing an interview, and they were talking about This Is the End, and his last scene, he's like, I
Yeah.
wanted to be the humongous. He's like, that was my whole 5 minutes was to be the humongous for 5 minutes.
Pretty close.
I found
Yeah.
this guy on a highway,
Yeah.
Channing Tatum.
Channing
you know,
Tatum.
slide right in whenever I want.
Come on,
Like,
Channing.
Yeah. And he's like, we're cannibals. We do what the fuck we want.
It's another
You know,
check George
it's just-
Miller didn't get.
But like again, he literally said like I had a moment, and in that moment I wanted to be the humongous, and it's like that's great, like that
The
character,
warrior of the wasteland.
and like, he has a herald. It's great, like he has a fucking
Yeah, he does.
a troubadour.
He
You
does.
know, it's fantastic.
yeah.
Great. This movie's great. This
It's
movie's
really
good.
cool. I mean, a lot of style, like, on display, of course. Like,
Love
Mad
it.
Max is there now,
Well, what I love even before this scene, because this is when Max is already in the refinery, it's like Max is just in the wasteland. He comes across that car crash, and it's he's gonna get the gas, and then you have that weird like hand scene, and then the guy dropping out.
Yeah.
And then you've got what's the guy with the big mohawk? Does he have a name? The red mohawk.
He does. Guy? Yeah. So that's the guy from Weird Science.
Right.
And,
yeah, the guy that's in the biker gang. in Weird
Yeah,
Science,
yeah. He's in a million other things. I'm not sure what his character's name is though.
Wes?
Yes,
That
Wes.
sounds right.
Yeah, Wes.
He's
And,
also in Commando. He's the bad guy in Commando
is he?
that Schwarzenegger fights, who looks like he's in the band Queen. But
Schwarzenegger fights in Commando?
he does.
I gotta
He
see
does.
this Commando
Yeah.
that you speak of.
But this guy's awesome. Yeah, he's the bad guy. He's pretty much the same character in Weird Science. You know.
Yeah, that's
maybe
what
part robotic. But,
well, he's brought back by her.
They basically in Weird Science they basically just took
Bring in Mad
characters.
Max.
They took what's his name, Michael Berryman from fucking
Right.
the Hills of Eyes.
Yeah,
They
right.
took them out of movies and
just
like
put
put
them
them in.
into
And
it.
I bet
cool.
you that guy was probably like, get me that fucking weird fucker, that weird fucker,
Yeah.
and that guy from the fucking
Yeah.
Mad Max too.
can we
That
get somebody
guy
who
too,
looks
you
like
know?
that? And it's like, well, let's just get him.
Yeah, that guy's like $30 and a fucking a cheeseburger. For
John
the day,
Hughes
bro.
can afford it, I think.
Yeah, I'm saying like he was like, give me those three fucking guys.
That guy's been in a lot
now.
of shit though. Yeah, he was in a movie called Fortress with Christopher Lambert.
Oh,
too.
that's a
Like,
good one.
He's in that too. Like he's
Well,
just
good
let's
one
not
is
get
relevant.
ahead
I mean,
of
good one
ourselves.
is. I mean, I've seen it and I enjoyed it.
This
but
thing relies on credibility.
Yeah.
This whole podcast.
let me not put my neck out on a Christopher Lambert movie,
But yeah, Wes, and he's got like his voice is sort of like they've distorted throughout the whole thing. It's always like you can run, but you can't hide.
Yeah.
Like crazy stuff
very
going on.
Bane-esque, if you would say.
well, yes, but I think what I love is that like you see this picture of Max, totally different, right? You see that you already know if you've seen the first movie that he's lost everything. So you bring that all into him. While I say that yes, the first movie is flawed and weird, if you've seen it, you project everything from that movie into the other ones, and it really elevates.
Agreed. Totally
character.
agree.
And
Totally
at this point, like, we don't need another hero.
No, we
No.
don't.
Well, we're gonna
Not
get
yet,
one.
not yet, not
No.
yet.
We're gonna get one.
Yeah.
It's great, and that's what's cool. It's like he has no motivation to be a good guy.
Not at all.
Like, and he's not good. Like
No.
his character is what. Like I was on a D&D kick today, and I was reading all these character cards for D&D, and it says like lawless, lawless evil. Lawful evil, which is it means a person who does real bad shit, but won't cross the line. Like a lot of the characters are classified as lawful evil because they fucking kill people and they murder all the time. And so you can't characterize that as a good person, but they are ethical and they are not doing it for like just sport. So that he falls into the category of lawful evil. He will fuck you up if need be.
Yeah, yeah.
But like he's not going to ever exploit or rob or,
No.
like rape.
As Omar might say, man's got to have a code.
Have a code, man.
Well, what happens, in the first movie, again to what you're saying, Leland. So in the first one, he's just trying to take care of himself, but then they kill his wife and kids. So like he's like, it's over. The only thing I have left is to hurt these people. And I think in this one, it's very much the same motivation, and he loses his car and his dog.
Yeah.
And those are the only things in the world he cares about. So he's like, my only thing to do is hurt these people. And the only way to hurt them is take this fucking fuel away from
Yeah.
them and kill as many of them as I can.
And blow up all
And
the rest of the fuel.
I don't
Again,
care if they
take
kill
away
me.
the fuel from the fucking motorcycle gang and
Yeah.
the car gang that what the fuck? Stop driving cars and this guy can't hurt you. Like, make him come fight you, pussies. Like, put that shit in park and be like, come get us. We'll be here. We'll wait until you're ready to fight. Nah, we'll drive after you. And John Wick,
Sure.
they killed the dog.
Yeah.
That's
Great
a little,
motivation.
A little wink.
I love him. I love his dog in this. It's a mangy. And I
so
read about
great.
it. They
He's like a cattle dog.
They literally went to like an Australian pound and found like a dog that was on death row. Like, we could figure out how to make this one work. I'm like, how cool is that?
It's great.
And that dog was like acting it up. He was like, he knew he was like
He
6
knew.
days away from fucking execution. They were like,
great.
you want me to fly a plane? Sure.
Sure. Yeah. Jump off a burning car. No problem.
Well, he's actually a great actor in this movie. I have to say, for a
awesome.
dog, like
Awesome.
he's amazingly aware.
And a non-trained, like non-acting animal.
it's
Like, I
crazy.
hate to say it like that, but those animals are super.
Yeah, he
trained.
wasn't an actor dog. Like, they just taught him how to do some basic stuff.
When he's guarding the
Actor dog, I
gyrocopter
love
guy and he's eating the dog food, and then the gyrocopter guy reaches for it and he just turns on him.
What a weirdo looking guy that is.
The
Gyrocopter
Gyrocopter
guy. Oh,
He's been in some stuff.
Yeah, he's one of the most famous Australian actors.
Yeah, but like he's been in some nerd stuff. Like he was in Revenge of the Sith as like that tall guy who has like pointy teeth, and he was in the He was the mouth of Sauron in the
Get
Return
out.
of the King.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
Oh wow.
he started doing like prosthetics work and things like that because he's got such pronounced features and stuff. And he's in fucking Beyond Thunderdome as a completely different guy who also flies a plane.
He's also the I just looked it up, but he's the train guy from The Matrix.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I always I couldn't place that guy. I just remembered. I was like, I think that's
Weird.
that guy.
Oh,
yeah.
he's one of the sharks in Finding Nemo too. Actually,
Ah, there you go.
Wait a second.
Let me see if he's.
That was a
Bruce.
cartoon. What the fuck are you talking
He's
about?
pretty awesome.
Let me see. Hold on. Let me look it up.
He's pretty awesome. And
It was a
yeah,
cartoon.
and I love that it's the same guy in part 3. Like, it's like, who cares? Like, he's a completely different guy. Like, it's George Miller. Like, I just want to cast that guy again. He's awesome.
Yeah. He's awesome.
A
We're
lot of
friends.
directors do that now.
Yeah.
I think that we see that like the classic one is Chris Evans. I guess like he was fucking Johnny Storm, and then you can make him Captain America.
That's true. Who cares?
And
right?
like that's a hard sell for comic book fans, but like people were like, and now people are like, that's fucking Captain America, bro. Don't you fucking dare talk about Chris Evans the wrong way. Like
That's
he
Cap.
is Cap, and it's like clearly Marvel had a good
It was weird when I was watching. I mean, the second one, he's great in that movie. It's really a funny role. I mean, the gyrocopter guy it's a great weird role. He's like throwing Molotov cocktails and stuff.
yeah.
When you see him in the third movie and he's playing something totally different, it's already messing with your brain. Like that, this movie is its own thing and its
Totally.
own creation, but it's somehow connected tangentially to these films. So it's really not caring about
Which I
connecting
like.
them,
Yeah.
which is really kind of cool.
And it's freeing in a lot of ways.
It is.
you
It's
know?
like, yeah, we can be our own thing.
He's cool. And this movie's full of great characters. You've got the feral kid, right, who's
Oh,
amazing,
yeah.
throwing his boomerang around. Where's that guy? We didn't find that kid.
I know.
Yeah.
Bet you they wouldn't have got rapey with that fucking shit. They would have fucked some kids up, come try rape me. All right, let's see what happens then.
My friend was like, I think they just found some mentally challenged kid and just gave him a boomerang.
Maybe.
I don't know.
He's
He
still
just
in the
sorta grunts.
wilds of Australia, fucking whipping boomerangs
Yeah,
at
you
fucking
know.
tourists as they go by.
Yeah.
There's so little dialogue. Like, I think I read Max has like something like 16 lines or something like that. And 2 of them are I just came for the gasoline. Like, he says like almost nothing, which is awesome.
His best line and best reading is when he's like, after that humongous scene you're playing, they're like trying to figure out, they're freaking out. And he's like, 2 days ago.
Intruder of rock and roller.
Oh, I love that.
I like to think that little kid is running around like just terrorizing film crews.
Just throwing boomerangs.
Yeah, like fucking they're trying to film Wolf Creek or something, and this fucking guy just runs through, like fucking hits somebody with a boomerang. They're like, that fucking Mad Max 2 kid's back.
Oh, the
Shit!
feral kid.
It's like an urban legend in Australia. It's like the wallaby,
And he just can
and him.
roll into
yeah,
the
it's
ground.
like the Caddyshack gopher.
He's the
you know?
gopher.
Pretty much.
Well, what I was saying is that I love that line, like, because he has like maybe 5 lines in the movie where he's like in there and he's like, 2 days ago I saw a tanker that could hold all that gas. You want to talk to someone to get you out of there? Talk to me.
That's right.
Like he does that awesome like hand gesture.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
just like, oh, he's the coolest fucking guy
And
ever.
it's also like this motherfucker he just doesn't talk. Like,
He doesn't
it's
say
amazing.
anything.
It's not that he can't talk. It's
nothing
that
to
he
talk,
clearly
man.
can talk, but like he fucking takes it to the next level of silent treatment. Like
Says what he needs to say, He just came for the gasoline, It's just good.
I'm just here for your gasoline.
Wouldn't they call it petrol?
I don't know.
I would think
That's an England thing. I don't know how it is in Australia.
That's a
but
good question.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what they do down there.
I don't know. I mean, like I found that kind of weird. I
Right.
always chalked that up to the American dub.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
when I heard when I watched the Australian one, I was like, no, they call it
No.
fucking
They call it
gasoline.
juice.
Yeah.
Get some juice.
And in part 2, they definitely say gasoline in part 2.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, great character guys. Like the guy who plays like the leader of the group. Like is a really cool character actor. I've seen in a million things and good people in it.
Did you find their costumes challenging? Like they were a little weird.
I mean, again, kind of gay.
Yeah, it was weird.
August is super fucking gay.
I mean-
I think the costume design in this movie is amazing.
Yeah.
I think that the people in the petrol station, their costumes seem a little weird. to
Yeah,
me. Like
yeah.
they seem almost too nice.
They're all they're like I get the idea they're supposed to be the good guys, so
Right.
there's symbolism there, and they're
Right.
virginal and nice, but like,
Sure.
how are they staying this clean?
I don't know.
Like
Bro, look at this fucking guy. He's an S&M fucking character. He's a
the
porno
humongous,
star.
the humongous is amazing.
Yeah.
He's a fucking porno star, and that his helmet is fucking dope.
It's badass.
And like, I think they kind
Oh,
of
for Jason, yeah.
well, Jason, and then I feel like I think like they bastardized the shit out of it in like future movies where like Gladiator.
Sure,
Like
sure.
They have,
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
they,
yeah.
In Gladiator, there's a scene where Russell Crowe fights a guy who is the humongous. Like
Yeah.
he's in a fucking loincloth and that mask, and you're like, come on, bro. Like, you guys, this is the best. Like, you can't give an homage without straight ripping a guy off. Like, if you look at that scene from Gladiator, he's fighting this guy.
And I'm totally convinced that Bane is just a ripoff. Like the Dark Knight Rises Bane is just a ripoff of the Humongous.
Yeah.
Because he is, when you listen to him talk, it's like the same thing. He's like, hello, citizens.
It's true.
We shall let you go if you give up your
true.
gasoline. I was
very
born in the
true.
darkness.
No, brother, you stay here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something he would say to one
Yeah.
of the gang, like, no,
That's true.
it's your turn.
Yeah.
And I mean,
He'd be
him,
like, yes, humongous.
Yeah.
Yes, Lord, humongous.
the comic character a little less, but yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Like the film
Interesting.
version is more like, yeah, definitely not the comic, but the film.
But even still, the comic character may have been visually, I mean,
Little
that was
bit.
post Mad Max for
definitely
sure.
post Mad Max.
Interesting. Seeps into everything.
Yeah, Nightfall was 10 years after. So.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool. So he gets stuck in there, and he gets the tanker, and that action, this scene of the escape is just incredible.
So good.
And I love the part also before that, even when the feral kid chops off that guy's fingers, he tries
Yeah.
to catch his boomerang.
Well, that's that same scene, right? He's
yeah,
like, I've got it.
It's just like, again, just like a layer of madness. Like, and he's sort of laughing about it after. You're like, what is happening? You know?
And the end of that scene, which I love, is like him trying to look for a car to jump into. Like, he's like, who should I?
They all just like, yeah. He's just like a loser.
Yeah.
Sort of bit. But yeah, the chase at the end is incredible, and it's a great payoff. Like, it's one of the sweetest payoffs ever.
It's like a 20-minute car chase
Yeah.
scene, nonstop, and the ending is just like, oh, guess what? Everything it's all fine. No one needed to do that.
And like Max alone on his own again, just in the wasteland. I'm like, like, it's perfect. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And like, it's just, he just keeps wandering. And I guess there's a little bit of a wrap up. Like, this one exists on its own. Like the feral kid, there's like a narration. So, I knew the man Max and blah, 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 but he's still out there.
That was the last time we ever saw Max. It's like, and I learned to be the leader of whatever culture.
Exactly.
Like, you don't even know how to eat fucking lunch, kid. Like, are you kidding? You raped and pillaged the village. Right? Like, how did you become a leader of anything besides a bunch of fucking wild kids? Like,
And he's seduced by the Happy Birthday song. So he's got that little thing.
the Northern Tribe.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking.
But yeah,
It's cool. Listen, like, my thing is, this movie is the quintessential, the Charlie Murphy skit, they should have never gave these niggas money. It's like, this is what you get when you give a talented person the funding.
Yeah.
And then to me, I could point to a billion directors, and early in their career, they have their first one. They have their one or two. It's either their first movie or their second movie where it's like, this is the one that gets them noticed, gets them acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
They get invited to Cannes, or they
Whatever.
they might win South by Southwest or something like that. That's the one that gets them on the map, the buzz. And then this is the follow up.
Yes.
And this is the payoff.
yeah, totally.
And then there's now we have to have a body of work. And everything from that point is judged accordingly. And so, like, for Kevin Smith, I love Mallrats. To me, is one of my favorite movies of his. But, like, by all intents and purposes, the least successful movie he's ever done.
Easily.
In terms of disappointment, even to the people who were involved, were like, you suck,
Yeah.
And it was like, but they gave him money, and he said, all right, I could do something better than I did it last time. Sam Raimi, Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2.
Totally.
You see it with all of these kind of directors. Quentin Tarantino, he makes Reservoir Dogs. It's just gritty and amazing. And they were like, let's give this guy a little bit backing and some fucking finance, and you get Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Might be one of the greatest movies ever made.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and then now from here on in, we'll judge him accordingly. Good, bad, and different. But you can't limit somebody and then wonder why they didn't live up to their potential. Now you give somebody a little taste. Like $5 million, even at this time, wasn't like The Farm.
It's probably about 18, 20 million
but
bucks.
like that's not The
sure.
Farm. Like
No.
we were talking about movies
moderately priced.
just a few years later that were 60, 70 million that were fucking tankers. Like they bombed straight. They would
Hudson
dead
Hawk.
on delivery. Don't you fucking don't do it, Leland. It's my favorite movie. Don't fucking do it.
Hey, I'm saying I like it. I'm saying it wasn't
I'm
a hit.
just saying though, like that's literally what I was talking about. We spoke about that movie in particular, or like some Schwarzenegger movies or big budget movies later on, where you're just kind of like, how the fuck did this happen? But that's like 5th, 6th, 7th effort out.
Yep.
For him, I really feel like he grabbed this bitch by the balls, and he got he squeezed every dollar out of that $5 million, and it's the kind of movie that you feel like he could have shot it for the 400,000. Like I feel like he could have did it if he wanted to. He could have did it.
Well, there's less action in this movie, I feel like, than in the first one.
Yeah, maybe.
But there's better visual stuff going on. Like there's that. I love the opening sequence where he goes to the gyrocopter's place and the snake, and then he kidnaps him, and then he basically goes to watch out.
The whole introduction. Yeah.
It's an amazing sequence of no dialogue.
And if you watch any of these behind the scene features, this is where the directors say we needed to spend money, and so we were like, fuck it, let's just do this. Like Kevin Smith always when they did Jay and Silent Bob, they say it was just like making Clerks, but they gave us $30 million. He's like, so we started just doing CG shit just because we needed a CG budget, we had a CGI budget just because, and so they had whole scenes that they did that they knew they weren't going to use just to use the budget, because they were like, next time they won't give you that budget, because they were like, oh, you can do it for $15 million, so just do it. And he's like, and next time you'll need it. So this guy, I feel like he could have did this for $400,000. But, he got $5 million out of it, and, he gets to make an even bigger movie.
So where does the Road Warrior go after this?
It's a good question. I mean, his car is destroyed. He's got nothing, essentially. He has no dog. He has no family. He's basically helped this last tribe of humans escape. We're going to be led by this feral child somehow.
He's going to eat that kid's going to eat those guys.
You think that's what it is? He's like, that's how I became the leader. I ate it. He's actually just a psychotic.
I'm a leader of myself because I ate the whole gang.
He's talking to a room full of mannequins that he's positioned. He
couldn't do that.
But he goes...
and that was the last time we saw Max.
So, I don't know what... I mean, it's 15 years between the two.
So technically, the character has
timeline.
been 15 years later. And again, so I think Fury Road is supposed to maybe take place in between 2 and 3. It seems,
well, that's where I'm kind of confused.
I am too.
We talked about this. Is it a reboot? Is it a reshoot? Is it a reimagining? Is it in the middle? Is it Does it take place in continuity? Is it going to reestablish continuity?
Could you ask all of those questions of every one of the Mad Max movies?
I think.
Well, no, but I honestly feel like the fact that George Miller is involved in it makes it more complicated.
It does, yeah.
Because if it was another guy, you'd be like, oh, when they came out with that Superman movie, Superman Returns, and they were like, it's a direct sequel to Richard Donner's Superman 2. Forget about 3, 4, and 5. Quest for Peace didn't happen.
It's a great movie.
Direct sequel, and you were like, all right, I'm okay. I'll give it a shot, But they had to establish that. You could watch that movie and not know, but then you'd be like, didn't this motherfucker? Where the fuck he was here? When did he leave?
You're better off. You're probably better off not saying anything and just doing it, which is what they're doing.
Yeah. And to me, that's I haven't been this surprised. And they just did it with the Terminator movie too.
Oh, Genesis.
In the new trailer, they show a fucking John Connor is a fucking Terminator, and I was like, asshole, don't fucking why? But even if you're gonna do that, Rob, just do it in the movie.
Yeah, why?
You imagine everybody would have been like, oh shit, that guy's got a metal arm, And it's like,
I wouldn't have seen that coming. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, like,
and when I saw in the trailer, I was like, John Connor's a fucking.
But I was like, but that's you sold. Like they got nervous and
they did.
They bitched and they went. Full
feedback
bitch.
has not been very good on the trailers.
But now what I'm saying is George Miller is probably like, I don't gotta tell you motherfucking shit.
Yeah.
I'll go back and be a doctor tomorrow.
No, it's true.
Like, I can make $100,000 tomorrow.
Those trailers are, I mean, obviously, as we talked about, are going to win awards. And
They could
just,
on their own.
Yeah,
I mean, I would have paid
as a
$10
short
just to
film,
watch that.
Yeah,
trailer.
they're amazing. I mean, I've watched them over and over and over again. They're amazing.
Charlize Theron looks fucking.
So before the Fury
Oof.
Road, we need to go beyond Thunderdome. And
Well, one would say he'd probably travel to the Thunderdome, but he's gonna go beyond the Thunderdome.
And
Which
this one
is-
is weird.
To find Captain Walker.
This one's weird, and like watching this one again, I really tried to give. This is the first one and third one. I really tried to give another chance to, because like it's all about the second one, and everybody's talked about the second one for more and more. But I came away liking the third one as well quite a bit, but it's weird. It's very weird.
I will admit, the third one is my favorite.
Oh yeah!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it too. It opens up really weird. I mean, just the credits, like it's so much different than the other ones. Like, first of all, like Mel Gibson and Tina Turner get co-credits.
Yeah.
You know, it opens with like a song
Of
and like
Tina Turner singing.
a whole thing. Like it's
weird.
just very different than the other
Mad Max
than the other
is
movies.
the
were.
private dancer, a dancer for money. That would be awesome.
He
But yeah,
left a good job in the city. He's been working for the
Yeah,
man.
he's working for the man every night and day.
But like, how did that Tina Turner thing happen?
Well, she's been in a lot of things though. Through the '70s into the '80s, she had been doing a Tommy. You know, she was the
Oh, she was great as the Acid Queen.
the
Yeah.
Acid Queen
Yeah.
and Tommy.
It's
and
just weird, like especially the way George Miller had been making movies. It seems like
Yeah.
he didn't give a shit, and it seems like it's like,
It's true.
oh, we'll give you a little extra money if you put this pop singer in. But like, I'm not even going to say it's bad because it sort of works.
It totally
Yeah,
works.
I
totally.
think before we talk about the movie, you got to put it in the context of the time period too.
1985.
So
Yeah.
now, 1985. But at this time, it would take about a year for a movie to get to VHS.
Absolutely.
So now, in 1986, figure summer of '86, this is coming out on VHS. This is at full VHS potential. Mom and pop fucking video stores everywhere. This poster, every window.
Oh yeah,
Everywhere.
I mean,
Like
it captured my imagination.
everywhere. And then you're like, okay, if I'm a marketing guy anticipating this 2 years down the road, because before we make this movie and then a year after that, I'm like, this is the industry where it's going. Movie posters are where it's at.
Absolutely.
Let's get a face on that poster that's going to... Now, if you notice, in the movie poster for the first one and the movie poster for the second one, you don't get a shot of the characters.
You don't
That's
even see
right.
Mel
Yeah.
Gibson's face.
No. In the first one, it's just the one sheet has no characters.
It's a
on
gorgeous
it.
shot,
It's a car.
though.
It's like
He's got the shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the second one, it's the arm of Lord Humongous.
Correct.
The arm
Yeah,
of Mad
right.
Max, and the car. The car is the centerpiece. Meanwhile,
And in America,
fucking
they
car
didn't
gets-
call it Mad Max. Like they were like,
the
we don't know
car
who
gets
this is.
destroyed in the fucking movie, right? And it's like you get this one arm in this bathing suit, weird fucking S&M arm with like a sliver
Half
of
a
a
face,
mask,
yeah.
and then with him it's cut off at the shoulder. You get like his ear,
Yeah.
and you see the shotgun, you see the holster, and you're like, okay, and then you're like, now they amp it up even more. Now it's front and center, Tina and Mel.
It's a whole different kind of
Gazing
thing.
into
yeah.
the camera.
It's a straight up-
It's amazing, and it's like he's got the beard,
Yeah.
and the fucking crossbow.
He's got that big mullet, like for most
Love
of it
it.
too.
And
Yeah,
he's
which
got
is
the
crazy.
fucking the lethal weapon.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
this is where it starts to muddle. You're
And he
like,
was still like,
He wasn't really much.
no, I mean in America, like this is still 2 years away from Lethal Weapon. So, but like,
she's got the crossbow in the thing,
Yeah.
and she's like looking right in, and you're like, and then they have the surrounding cast at the bottom, and it's like this.
Very Star Wars poster.
It's a tone shift.
yeah, it may have been Drew Struzan. Yeah, who
Yeah,
was
it
the
could have
poster
been,
guy.
yeah.
He
But
probably
like
did.
it's also a tone shift, and it's also like this is gonna be in every mom and pop store. It's gonna be front and center. And I remember in my video store, till that video store closed in the 90s, they would rotate posters religiously. This poster never came down.
I'm about to buy this poster.
The guy who ran
this is an awesome poster.
the guy who ran this video store loved this poster, and
Beautiful poster.
he kept it up, and like it was a running gag amongst us teenagers. Like as we got older, we'd be like, what's with this poster, you know? And he was like, you guys, it's just great.
Yeah, I'm
the
getting
Thunderdome is
I'm
just
getting
great,
that for the cave for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was remembering South Park. There's always the Road Warrior poster that's on the wall.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
in Stan's
that's
room.
right.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
But like
It's him and the dog. And
Yeah.
it really represents a shift in not only marketing but also like Miller. Like you start start to see like now he's
this
like,
is mid '80s,
no,
man. This is
I'm
when movies
a
are
fucking
becoming.
filmmaker, and I want to do this, and I want to keep doing it. And
He's figured it out.
I don't give. You want me to put Tina
No, the
Turner in the movie?
the
Tina
movie
Turner's
was
in the
like-
movie. She's gonna do some weird shit. I hope Tina's up for it. You know, like I hope that's the thing. He don't compromise. He don't say like, "Oh, you're gonna give me Britney Spears? Okay, well, she's only gonna have to sing a song, and then I'll let her go home."
Right.
No, he's like, "You're gonna give me Tina Turner? She's gonna do some weird shit. If she can't be on set with this weird shit, she shouldn't do this movie."
Yeah.
The budget was big. It was like 10 times bigger than the first Mad Max movie or something like that. It was enormous. And this is the only one, including
Some would say humongous.
including Fury Road, that is PG-13, which is
Very clearly
Yeah.
done.
So-
The evolution, as you see in the second film, to include like the feral kid, which is like connecting that world into the
Yeah.
geekiness. I think.
I
think
believe
that's
this
what it
is also right around the time the PG-13 rating.
It just was invented.
Not
Yeah.
Well,
84,
Gremlins
right?
was the year before.
Yeah, 83,
So,
84.
yeah.
So I mean, like,
Poltergeist was right around
but
that.
like, so like a lot of those horror movies, I think if they were faced with the challenge
Right.
of the PG-13 rating, would have probably
A couple might have made it. Yeah.
they would have cut.
they would have cut.
They
it
would
out.
have
think
cut some stuff.
They would have cut to
Yeah.
make the movie
PG-13, yeah.
Sure.
because like there was just no need to. But like a movie like Poltergeist, they would have probably cut down, or like a movie like something that's not so bad. Let me think like
Well, it was like that's something that was rated R. Yeah. I
yeah,
don't
like
know.
from like 81, 82, like something that would be like rated R, but like only because there was nothing else. It can't be PG, but there's no middle ground, and so they invented a category for movies like this. And I don't think they lost much.
No, I don't think so.
Like now, when you hear a
It's a
movie,
little lighter than the Road Warrior.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
sure.
But I
You know,
like when
there's
now,
no rape in this one.
Well, but when you hear somebody's gonna make a PG-13 movie, like when they said like
Yeah,
they're gonna
yeah,
make the Deadpool movie, it's gonna be PG-13. You're like, fuck,
Yeah, or
it's over, like
Expendables,
it's
yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, it's good. It's like, I think back then, since it was so new, I mean, like they made a movie and then they were like, oh, you want to make a PG-13? All right, cool. I don't think he edited anything out to make it PG-13. I
No.
think this is the movie he would have shot.
If you listen to his interviews, he talks about that specifically, which is that were you trying to tone it down for the specific person? And he's like, in writing it, you just kind of found that it was less violent. It was trying to be more hopeful. It was
Oh,
trying
okay.
to lead themselves into the children.
Well, and they're 20 years down the road. They've come to accept this world, and
Sure.
now it's just living in it. Like I
Exactly.
think that's any good story that has a big tragedy like that, where you deal with like major fallout. The first few stories are usually very rough shot, and then the second and third wave of stories tend to be like, this is life after 9/11. This is life after like in the Batman books when they had the big earthquake in Gotham, a no man's land. There was like the first one is like, oh my god, we just had a fucking earthquake, and then the second series of books was like living after the earthquake, and the third series of books is they're not helping us. Like we gotta make a new Gotham after the earthquake, and so I think like that's this case. Like this movie would have been this anyway. Like it's a progression.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe.
he's not going to make a wild and crazy fucking, because that's what that was then. Now it's not wild and crazy anymore. Now it's we don't have shit. Like you don't have shit.
So I like this one quite a bit as well. I will say that when it starts off though, like I don't think it looks as good as the last one.
Definitely,
Yeah.
the cinematography. I don't know I think it might have still been Dean
Yeah.
Semler, but it definitely seems more Hollywoodized and less less like Lawrence of Arabia, which is like,
Yeah.
or Sergio Leone, which is like the second movie is like a Western.
Can you see him like sitting in the corner like the Gus Van Sant in Jay and Silent Bob when they're like, George, how do you want to shoot this? He's like, I'm just
I know,
counting this
just count-
money.
I'm busy. I'm busy.
It's so apocalyptic. Like I feel like this is almost the one that almost everybody rips off. Like
It is.
it's like
Well,
this
Thunderdome
is I
and
mean like,
Bartertown.
Mad Max. Like you could make any sort of movie and be like, it's sort of like Mad Max meets blah blah blah, and like that's sort of what this movie is
They look
in a little bit of
Thunderdome,
way.
yeah.
And like this, like hockey. I mean, like football pads all over. Like,
Yeah.
and they look like sort of like they're new too. Like I don't think like the costumes aren't quite as like weathered, almost like they didn't work as hard on that. But it's like, yeah, it's like football pads aren't going to cut it anymore. You can either work a little better, guys, you know. But this is where it came from. I feel like this movie.
It feels natural. It feels organic. It feels like they have a budget for sure. Especially when you moved into Bartertown, you're like, oh
yeah,
they actually gave them money to make this movie, and
helping to build a better tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like I get the distinct impression that like you get this feel that like people have to make the best of the situation, and they're like, it's a shitty situation, and they're like, all right, but we're also that people are inherently petty. And like you said, like they're gonna collect this random shit, and they're gonna be like, these are my possessions. And it's like when you see homeless people in the street. You see a homeless person who's fucking down on their luck. They literally gonna go to bed on the pavement tonight, and they're pushing a fucking cart with more items than a fucking guy who has a house.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
you're like, how the fuck? First of all, where did you get all this shit? Second of all, why do you keep all this shit? What do you need? You know, you're fucking homeless. Like, you know, like I that is sort of like the like human nature, where it's like I'm fucking homeless, but I'm still a collector.
Right,
you know?
right.
It's like,
There's
it's
an
like-
identity there, right? I mean, you see that in this film, which is like there's a certain sense of collecting with all these people. Like you can tell that there's a ravaging society that is just looking for new things. And that's why you get this really interesting cross section of imagery, of design of these characters. They're not almost in one world. They're all in their own little worlds.
Yeah, totally.
And like that guy with the big, like the doll head behind him or whatever.
I love that. It's so weird.
So weird.
So weird.
But you're like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's so weird. There's like at one point they walk and when they come into Bartertown, and there's like a blind Asian guy like playing the saxophone,
which is
holy shit.
But it's, you know, in the first movie, it's his wife who plays the saxophone.
That's true.
And so in the third one,
That
when
was
you hear
also kind of a holy shit moment. Like,
Yeah.
it was weird when you never cut to someone playing a saxophone.
No.
Like, you know.
No, it's like you hear the music in the first film, and then all of a sudden you cut away, and it's his wife playing
You're like,
it. Okay, so then when you're watching the third movie, you're like, you hear the saxophone, you're like, is his wife still alive? And it's like, no, it's this half-naked Asian guy who's blind that's sitting on a bench. And it's not even Tina Turner. She's going to come out of these curtains. And
It's so weird,
it's
man.
so weird.
And he gets to Bartertown, and like they make him check his gun. So he has a whole thing with the
Yeah.
guy, and they make him check his guns in.
How hilarious is that? Like, it's almost like he's like George Miller has started to make a Steven Spielberg movie.
Like, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
It's like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, that's something Jack Sparrow would do. Like, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. And it's like, this is so much different than these last couple movies.
because you're bringing those in.
Well, because
here.
then he had like in the first movie, he has like the one gun, and like they say like we don't have a lot of bullets, you know. Like,
Yeah.
And then like now he's got like fucking.
He's
90
got a million
in Road
guns.
Warrior, he has one bullet that he shoots and it backfires, and that's it.
But like, even like he's like, yeah, I can't do anything. And they're like, well, you can shovel shit, can't you? And if you guys remember, but like they start playing like weird 80s saxophone music then. Like, it's a total weird cut. You're like, what is with this movie?
That's the era too. Like you know, like you move out of the late '70s independent era and you move into the big budget blockbuster '80s blockbuster,
Which
where
has
you like
that,
need jazz, man. You need jazz
Yeah,
sax.
yeah, yeah.
Like that has to be there. What do you mean we're not gonna have jazz sax? Like and this is when you get into the boardroom where there's the like I said, the Dr. Strangelove group.
There might have been a little bit of it on
jazz
this
sax.
one.
Anybody? Like when we're gonna put the jazz sax? Right now seems good. And you're like, he's like, all right, I guess I got to put the jazz sax in. You know, like
Well, Beyond Thunderdome is a full Warner Brothers movie, right? It's
Yeah.
like they produced it. They
no, but
made
that's
it.
what I mean.
I mean,
like,
he was still there. He had a co-director on this one.
Right.
Who was like maybe a friend of his. I don't know exactly. But I feel like maybe this one because I feel like he sort of punched out a little after this. Like, he didn't make a movie for a while, you know, sort of thing. He's like, you know.
Well, he did Eastwick a couple years after.
That's true. But it was a few years. Like,
and that's like you could tell that was like probably like considering like compared to this, that's like a small budget movie.
he's a movie. I like a guy like that who makes a movie once every 4 or 5 years. He takes his time. You know, he really gets into
or
it.
like he goes from extremes. Like that they've probably filmed that movie in like 4 sets
Yeah.
in like a small town
Yeah.
while they were on like a 3-month vacation. That's what it probably felt like at a bed and breakfast somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas this was probably like a fucking production.
No kidding.
But
Yeah.
Master Blaster, badass, great, idea for a character.
Who runs Bartertown?
Master Blaster.
It's
It's well executed.
Louder.
Well executed, in design and concepts and everything. I
And they-
really dig.
They happened to steal this name for a video game.
They did, which is one of my favorite NES games.
Love that
awesome,
game. That's a great game.
Yeah.
And it's like, how the fuck you can't just steal that? Like that's this year. That literally you stole it like a year later.
I think watching these films, we realize that not enough people are paying attention to Australian cinema, that they don't care, that like they'll just steal whatever.
But like,
Yeah,
and
totally.
like, I know like probably like somewhere where George Miller was like, they just they stole that from us, and they were like, nobody cares. Like the lawsuit, like the copyright lawyer was like, we're not going to pursue it.
Dare you to sue us.
Yeah, he's like, but it's the same name.
So Thunderdome itself, so even any flaws of this movie might have, Thunderdome itself is worth price of admission.
No
Like for the
kidding.
concepts of Thunderdome, and again, the execution of it is fucking incredible. I was reading a little bit about it, and Roger Ebert gave it. He was like 4-star review. He was like, Thunderdome alone is worth everything that you've come to see this movie for. It's the most creative like fight scene that you've they did something new, like, which is so hard, and I fucking love it.
Well, and then like you say, like everything's been done before, and I get that, but every once in a while somebody does something that's innovative, and it's just because they did it in a way that it's different. So like when in Django, when Quentin Tarantino has that scene when they're in the salon and they're watching the 2 slaves fight,
Right.
that's like, I've never seen anything like that before. Like I've seen
Good point.
gladiator type things. These guys are sitting on fucking silk couches.
Yep.
They're dressed to the nines.
There's a lot going on
sipping
there.
mint juleps, and then the fucking minute the fight ends, he throws the guy a fucking hammer and says, finish that off. Get this guy a bed and a chick. And you're just like, what the fuck? Like that happened in that guy's living room.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen that. So that's like taking a scene and how can I make it original?
Right.
And so for me, this is the seminal, moment of that where people are like, we got to make our Thunderdome. We got to have our arena, our venue, our fight scene. It's got to be Thunderdome. It's our Thunderdome,
So I want to read actually Roger Ebert's little
Go for it.
paragraph that he says. Thunderdome is the first really original movie idea about how to stage a fight since we got the first karate movies. The dome is a giant upside-down framework bowl. The spectators scurry up the sides of the bowl and look down on the fighters, but the combatants are not limited to fighting on the floor of the arena. They are placed on harnesses and elastic straps that they can keep leaping from top to bottom and from side to side with great legal bounds. Thunderdome is fighting as 3D chess is to a flat board, and the weapons available to the fighters are hung from the inside of the dome: cleavers, broadaxes, sledgehammers, the inevitable chainsaw. It is into Thunderdome that Mad Max goes for a showdown, blah, blah, blah. But it's basically saying, like, he is blown away by the idea that they are changing
That's cool.
the equation.
It's really cool.
And I thought you were going to read it in the post-cancer Robert Ebert voice. which
Yeah,
would have been
you wanna do a
way
Roger Ebert
better.
impression?
That would have been way better.
Well, Afterlife itself,
yeah.
that's all I can hear about.
But like, and then also, I was gonna say, like, to me, this is like the perfect example of like the indie side of George Miller creeping out.
Mhm.
He was like, we're gonna have an upside down bowl,
Yeah.
and the people are gonna climb it, and then they're gonna hang fucking weapons from it,
It's
and not
crazy.
to mention they're gonna be in elastic straps and they're gonna bounce around from it, and you could tell like the Strangelove fucking group was like, now, what is that?
It's just absurd enough, like, to be crazy, but also like just practical enough to sort of work.
It feels
you know?
80s crazy. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like in the 80s, like, that would be something like, you got it, man. Like, it's like these coke-fueled executives that are like, totally, I agree. I see what you're saying.
So every year there's Burning Man. You guys know Burning Man, and
Sure.
they do. I've never been, but I've considered going. But like one thing I've wanted to see is they do a Thunderdome. Like they build a real Thunderdome there every
They
year.
kill each other.
They also
do-
build a Wicker Dome.
They
or
do
Wicker Man.
Wicker Man, yeah. So I mean, there's some pop culture
Yeah.
that's going on there.
You
They
know
don't.
it's outside, right?
They don't kill each other. I do. I know.
That's what's probably been
Whoa,
holding
whoa,
you
whoa,
back.
whoa, whoa, whoa. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
So I believe they're foam covered, like swords and stuff.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
But I do believe they cheer that quite a bit, which is probably pretty
That's
cool.
funny.
and
Really cool.
they're shooting flamethrowers. Like it goes pretty hardcore, and the people just climb up on the cage and watch and throw shit. But like people are like, I'm a grudge match with this guy. We're gonna hit each other with foam sticks, but we're gonna bounce on like rubber bands. You know,
Oh, it's great.
good for them,
I
nerds.
love it.
You gotta
That's
love
awesome.
nerds. You know, the guy who's the MC who has like giant shoulders.
Awesome. Like
What the fuck?
like every little beat. I mean, this is the same thing with Road Warrior. It was like every beat was weird and expansive. This film did that times 10. Like it's like every beat they would take and then they would just expand what you would expect.
It starts getting a little cartoony in a lot of ways, but
It
the
does.
style like starts growing, and you're like, I'm into it.
Yeah.
Like this is not a practical apocalyptic world. It's
No.
a style heavy one, which I'm totally fine with. And he's also the MC for like the break a wheel, spin the wheel thing.
Break a
the
deal, face the wheel.
Like, I mean, this guy just MCs all the awful murder games.
Meanwhile,
that
Well,
they
and
have,
he
you know?
running a
he
shop.
found like a nice niche gig, you know, like
Yeah.
he was like,
Yeah.
I got a voice, man.
Yeah, here in
Yeah.
Thunderdome, I'm cool.
Yeah,
you know?
he's like the Michael Buffer of Thunderdome.
Well, he's barking before he's like, buy this
Yeah,
camels that
early,
are selling. He's like the seller. He's like the
Imagine
auctioneer.
like they're like, lunchtime has begun. You know, he's like announcing like all the meals.
we must all face the fate of our lives with the wheel.
It's an awesome the camels. So that's Max's interceptor, right? They
Right,
have
yeah.
like, and it's being pulled by camels at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
It's an awesome visual.
It is.
Just in and of itself.
It's
You're
really
like,
cool.
more time has gone by. There is no fuel. He has to use camels, but he's still got his fucking car.
Yeah.
I guess, you know.
And the no fuel aspect is played out throughout the plot of the film.
Yeah.
In terms of like no one can get around, but they kind of, and also probably why there's no driving in most of this film, but they kind of talk about how they've.
Because it's 20 years after a fucking fuel shortage,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any driving
There
in
should
this
be
goddamn
no-
movie. Enough's enough, you know.
But they figured out a way to manufacture fuel from what, pig shit?
Right, it's
essentially?
methane, I guess.
Methane from
basically.
them, yeah.
So that Master Blaster.
Yeah, and so
It's-
so that's where he meets Pig Killer.
It's terrible when Blaster gets it, and you find out he's sort of
He has Down syndrome.
he's
Yeah.
he's having some problems.
Yeah.
He's just
Sounds-
He has the mind of a child.
that guy. Yeah, that little midget guy. He's amazing.
He's in Freaks. He's one
Really?
yeah, he's one of the main guys in Freaks.
I know he was really old when he made this, but yeah, it was,
He's
wow.
the midget guy with like the kind of cool flat top in that movie.
Oh, that's
With
awesome.
The big suit. Yeah, he's great.
Amazing. But then Tina Turner jumps like 70 feet off the cage, like down.
What? Do I not understand the rules?
fucking that master guy is fucking pretty deep. Like fucking Blaster is fucking. He's huge.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I don't believe it was the same actor.
No, I don't think so. No.
When
I
they
think
give
they
him
just
his Down syndrome face was a different guy.
I think so,
Like,
too.
it's the Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk treatment.
Yeah, I
where
think
they,
so.
Bill Bixby, Lou
Like,
Ferrigno.
it's the same guy. No, I think they buried him under that body.
Yeah,
or something.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it
something
looked
like
like. That's
that.
kind of what it looked like. Because when he gets shot with the arrows, it looks kind of fake.
yeah,
it's
totally.
like a little weird.
The fight's great though.
It is.
The fight is good. It goes
So
on for a
good.
while. It's satisfactory, and it progresses, and then he wins, and he figures out a way to beat him.
With the
the
whistle.
whistle hurts his ears,
Which is such a great, like, they keep having him lose the whistle
Yeah.
until he finally gets it. And you're there the whole time going like,
It's great.
Yeah.
But then he has to. Yeah, he busts the deal, so he has to face the wheel.
Face the wheel, which is, he gets,
He gets gulag.
which I
Which
was
I
looking.
assume was like, that's like a Russian prison,
Well,
right? or
it's
something?
it's the organization, right? That was basically they imprison people in Siberia,
Right.
It's like the gulag would grab you and take you out. So I was like looking this up. I was like, is this another term that exists? No.
No, they just made it their own thing.
Yeah.
They just banish him.
Yeah.
His other options were I paused it and I wrote this down because I was
Auntie's
curious.
choice.
He had death,
Merman.
spin again, hard labor, forfeit goods, underworld, Auntie's choice, amputation,
80s
Life-
choice.
Auntie's choice.
Oh,
So like
Auntie's
Tina Turner's
choice.
auntie, life imprisonment, and acquittal. There was one acquittal that he could have gotten, but
Interesting.
pretty much the rest of them were all pretty
Not too
bad.
great. No.
Yeah, he lucked out
Yeah.
with the banishment.
He just got a weird head on his, like a weird, like.
But imagine
Yeah.
he was like, fucking banishment.
And it's like,
Cool.
I'm like, how many giant heads do you guys have? Like, you should keep everything for like, like just
You
blindfold.
never
them.
know.
Well, what do you think? Those mascot uniforms went to waste? No,
Yeah, no.
we stripped those down and we turned them into fucking
That's right.
penalty
It'd
helmets.
be great. It's Mr. Met, It's just,
That would have been
Like
interesting.
the Stanford tree.
Yeah.
All those stuff. Dumb mascots. Like, you're going to be a Blue Jay this week.
I honestly thought though when like he rides the horse all the way and then the horse like dies, I was like, did that horse really die? Like I was like, it looked like it died, or like they shot it with a bunch of tranquilizers. 'cause it was
the first 1 and 2. Yes, that
Yeah.
horse died. This movie, no.
No,
Warner
it's fine.
Brothers ain't letting no
they
horse.
won't.
But then all of a sudden he encounters like a gajillion kids, and it's a completely different movie, and there's a whole new
Solar babies.
storyline, and
Now
like
it's became Solar
all these
Babies.
new characters. You're like, probably an hour into the movie almost.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty far in there, and it's really weird.
Well, the first kid that walks out after that girl rescues him, I think he's holding a boomerang. And so there's this like,
really?
like there's almost this thought in your brain which is like, oh, is this the feral kid
And
as
then
he's
you
growing up?
didn't
And you're
realize,
like, oh, there's
it's Australia. They all have
They all-
boomerangs.
yeah, they all look alike.
That's like having
and,
feet.
yeah.
You know?
yeah, that kid had feet. I thought it was the same guy.
So yeah, he's supposed to be Captain Walker, and they've been waiting for him, which is sort of interesting. Like these children sort of creating a whole society based on the only bits of information that they have, like, and just created it and like live it, and like that's it. They believe in it,
I love,
which is what we all do, I guess.
it is true. As we're doing here, talking about Mad Max as
Yeah.
like part of our mythology.
Exactly.
But I love the Captain Walker tell. I think it's one of the best parts of the movie. I think it's so weird
Yeah.
and doesn't really fit the film, but it totally fits the film
Yeah.
and the insanity behind
And
it.
and like the painting is very obviously him.
Yeah.
It's like there seems to be something, and like you start thinking about it, like, are these the people from the last movie? Did
Yeah.
they know this story? Maybe somebody, but he's also like very clearly, because he has gray hair.
Yeah.
Like it's very clearly him. So I guess they knew he was coming.
It
Doesn't matter.
It's super fucking weird, but it's like kind of like the least weird thing in a movie of
It kind
weird
of is,
shit. So
yeah.
it's kind of like in any other movie, this would be like, wait, what? They had a picture of him. It's definitely him, man. It's like not looks like him. That's him.
It's
And
totally
then-
him.
But then you're like, but compared to the other shit that's gone on so far, like, there's a fucking midget running a pig shit factory that
Yeah.
makes gas.
Well, I
like,
think
you
you
know,
have-
it's like this is the least thing we should be.
You have that
concerned
whole stretch so that when he gets to those kids, you're like, oh, this is fucking paradise. He's escaped this wasteland.
Yeah.
There's like water, there's food,
He's
there's
gonna
a whole
eat all
society.
these kids. They have no chance against him and his powerful fucking warrior body. He's gonna just one by one pick them
I
off.
mean, that's what he knows. He knows if somebody comes here, that is going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's over.
But he
Rockatansky.
then they take him to show him the plane, and that's a weird scene too. There's crazy classical
so
music
weird.
just starts playing,
And
they're
the
coming.
image of the kids all on the top of
Yeah.
the plane is so weird.
It's so weird. But that's like there's a big hero shot for Max there where
Yeah.
he's like crossing. I remember he used to be on the commercials on Channel 11 all the time, and like. He's cut his hair now at this point, and like he has some sort of skirt on, and it's blowing
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
wind, and like this is badass,
Yeah.
with his one shoulder pad.
The one thing that's pretty amazing is that even though they're out here in the middle of nowhere, they still fuck you in the drive-thru every time.
So then they end up going to Bartertown. They end up going back to Bartertown. Right, we'll skip ahead. Some kids escape and they go back to Bartertown.
they
and
break in.
Yeah, they made the pig killer guy. They team up with and Master. They team up with to break out. And that sequence,
Mongo. as
the
I
escape
like to call him.
sequence is pretty awesome with the train. Like it's a solid
I agree.
chase sequence, and it's different, and it's different. It's similar to the other one, but different.
But it's great because you're watching this whole film and you know Mad Max being like a car chase movie, and you're like, there's not a fucking car at all in this movie.
So they figure something out. Yeah.
And so then the last third of the film is a
like
car
I said,
chase.
the second movie, the poster is the car.
Is the car.
It's
yeah.
not even the
No.
characters,
No.
and those characters are designed for posters. Like
Totally.
Lord Humongous
Absolutely.
he was made to be put on a poster. And
Totally.
it's like
So's Tina Turner, though. Let's face it.
So it's a big chase, and he starts killing everybody. And then the guy with the mannequin head like dies.
That's a
and
great scene where he
he's-
flies in the. Was he in the cow car, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But he's dead, and you see his head, and all you see is his hand petting the mannequin face, and then he straight up gives Max the finger. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
I'm
is
telling you,
this
man.
Movie?
This is George Miller in action. He doesn't care.
I like to believe that he was like, and then you're gonna pet the face.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna give him the
I
finger.
guarantee you he said that, but it was probably more like, and then you're gonna bet the fight, and then you're gonna give Max the finger.
And it's sort of a happy ending, I guess.
And then we'll have a Foster's
again.
Hey, it's Australian for beer.
Again, they're having like there's another narration where the kids like they find society,
Yeah.
and Gyro Captain guy is there again, but he's a plane guy and he flies
He's
them
actually,
away.
I think he's credited as, what is he called, like plane pilot?
probably
Gyro
yeah.
Lieutenant in this movie. He's not the captain anymore.
and
they-
He's been promoted.
You do get some
Corporal
acknowledgments
Gyro.
of it being Australia. You see like the Sydney Opera House in ruins.
Oh, right. When he goes
Yeah.
and flies to the city. That's actually one of the more
Yeah.
impressively visual scenes in that film.
So that was
When it's
like,
the big dust cloud and they're flying in the city. And this is the first film, too, where they talk about the apocalypse as far as a nuclear fallout.
Yes.
They don't talk about in the other films. The second one is just like it's a gas wars, but in the third one,
You don't
it's very
really know.
clearly- You don't know.
Yeah.
It's very clearly that there is a post-apocalyptic nuclear, like that's why water. You can't drink any of the water.
Right.
That guy's like, want to buy some water? He's like, he pulls out his, that nuclear meter, whatever it's called, Geiger
it's,
counter.
It's all like
Yeah.
It's radiation. Yeah.
But
yeah.
like, to me, this is like the perfect example of like, this is what would happen if something like that happened. Like, people would stop. Like, that's what makes the first two movies so absurd to me about the cars, is that like, it's like at some point you just cars just become obsolete.
No, that's true. You would stop driving
like,
as
enough,
much as
like,
possible.
cut it the fuck out. Like, we were on this planet for fucking thousands of years without cars. People did pretty fucking good. They got all the way from Asia to fucking South America, crossing a fucking land bridge through Alaska,
foot.
like on foot. Like, these motherfuckers could do it, you know? So like, I just think, especially in Australia, like the ultimate like contained atmosphere. Australia is like this little
It is.
small island fucking nation that's like by itself. It's like perfect. That's why I always thought like the zombie type movies and these outbreak type movies, these post-apocalyptic movies work best in a contained environment. Like, 28 Days Later works so good because it's set in England and it's the island.
Children
Like,
of Men.
they
Yeah.
contained it,
Yeah.
and then you're like, no, it got out.
Yeah.
Or like Planet of the Apes, they play up on the fact that it expanded. Like from one thing to many. I always feel like that's the thing. These people would have been like, cars, fuck cars. Like, like, we got to eat. Like, I need we got to learn how to use a boomerang to fucking survive. Like, like, too much of that is, like, and I felt like that was just because he was making a car movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
that's
like,
true.
at the third one, he was like, enough with this. Like, we can't, like, these people 20 years
It
later would
makes
not
no
still be,
sense,
They're
yeah.
not still going to be trying to make gas. Like, they're making gas to survive, not to fund cars. There's a methane fucking a pig shit fuel factory, not to make fuel for cars.
Yeah.
But
to make fuel
power
to
the
live.
city.
Yeah. And like, to me, that makes sense.
So you
Yeah,
run
totally.
Bartertown.
Like, if they would have been a bunch of motherfuckers driving in cars, I would have been like, no. Like, they would have.
It's good. They tried something different.
Refinery open, not to keep you in a fucking sports car.
Yeah. Well, they try up front. I mean, they basically set that up for that last scene, which is like, well, we figured out how to manufacture fuel, right? And then they kind of allude to the train, and then it's like, it's going to get to it eventually. So
Sure.
it's going to have to end in a car chase, but they want to let you know that this is a plausible reality of sorts,
Well, it's kind of like that, like pulling out something from the past
Yeah.
to have that scene.
Totally.
Like in a Batman movie.
People to get their money's worth.
Well, like
Yeah,
in a
sure.
Batman movie, like he's been out of a vehicle for fucking 2 hours, and then all of a sudden, like leading up to the end scene, he's in the bat plane.
Yeah.
And you're like, they put him in the fucking bat plane. It's like this. It's more like we wanted to get a bat plane in here. We didn't want him flying in opening credits in the bat plane. You got to work your way to that.
Yeah.
And so like he wanted to get to a car chase eventually.
So the Joker fills balloons filled with gas. It's great.
I think it's been enough time though that I'm ready for another car chase with Mad Max. Straight up car chase in Fury Road.
Well, and this looks like it's set in that. And then again, if it's set in, you're talking about 20, 25 years down the road,
Yeah.
then no, it doesn't work.
No.
5 years after, people still,
Sure.
still, like, imagine if they shut the internet off today.
Right.
How many years would people still go to their laptop and be like, is it today? Maybe is the day it
Yeah,
comes
that's a
back.
good point. Yeah.
Maybe it comes back.
I'm really looking forward to Fury Road. I was sort of anti it for a while just because I wanted another one with Mel Gibson, like
I think
big
many
time.
people were there, but so did George Miller.
And I think he did too. And I really thought that Max, much more even than some of the other guys, like I was okay with recasting Indiana Jones almost before you cast Max because he got a little older in each one.
Yeah.
And we saw the world change and not just Max. So I kind of wanted to see where the world was going to be and say he's supposed to be like 45 and Beyond Thunderdome. So I want to see him 20 years later at 65 sort of thing. And I was really anti it, but when I started seeing the trailers, I was like, okay, I'm okay, I guess.
I hope. Do you think maybe he's got a cameo?
Maybe. It's a very good
No.
chance, but I mean, it wouldn't make any
I don't think
sense,
so.
right?
I don't think he does.
No, not as Max.
No,
Like,
I don't.
It would just confuse the issue even more, but that would sort of make sense perfectly with these other movies.
It
like,
would. It would be fun. Yeah, I think we're building something interesting here, and like what George Miller has said is that he has enough stuff for 2 more movies, or maybe the film has done so much better that he's pulled that George Lucas is like, oh, I was going to make 6 movies the whole time, and it could be
I almost
interesting.
hope if he makes more that he keeps doing them as weirdly as he's doing them, and that they're not even direct sequels to this one. Like they're just fucking crazy, Like,
this movie looks really. So now every once in a while, like nowadays, you have 2 types of movies like this. You have movies that are trying to be weird, and then you have movies that are just weird.
Sure.
That movie Bellflower that I talked about before, when I watched it, I was like, this is just fucking weird. Like he's not trying to be weird, it's just weird. It's this kid. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he lived this. Not to the point where the movie ends, but like some of the scenes are clearly him. Some shit in certain movies, you like, why did they put that in there? Like that's a personal thing or it's a weird thing. And then other times it's like, well, this worked in Dawn of the Dead, so let's have this same scene in The Walking Dead, or this works in this, so let's do it in this. And it's like, nah, this seems to be an original. Like you thought that shit was wacky. I had shit that I just, like Stanley Kubrick. I just couldn't get it on camera yet.
Yeah.
Like he scripted out AI fucking 15 years before the movie came out because he just didn't have the effects to do it. So maybe George Miller has been saying like, I've been waiting for a robot armed bitch.
I think so.
You know what I mean? Like I wrote that in the first movie, and how could we have done it?
Well, and you have the Gasoline Raiders and the Suicide Bomber guys and stuff like that. There's so many homages to the old films.
Right.
You see the wind-up little happy birthday thing from the second film. There's these little winks to it, and a lot of the vehicles look very similar.
For sure.
So there's certainly an awareness of playing with the old, but making it new.
Charlize Theron's character would have been like a tinfoil arm. You know what I mean? Like she would have had like a.
It wouldn't have been articulated. It would have just been like a claw.
like look at this metal glove.
Yeah.
It's like
It's cool. They released the trailer just not too long ago, which was like the Legacy trailer, which showed
great,
clips from the old Mad Max movies intercut with this new one. Like they're like, this is sort of just a Max story, like in the middle. Which, and again, like Max had been something different for me before that, but I'm like, I'll be on board. I'll totally get on board with it.
One thing I wanted to mention, actually, which is we talked about the man with no name and Sergio Leone. In Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, he is never referred to as Max and only is referred to as the man with no name.
Does he get Max even in the second one? Does he?
Does he?
I don't know. Definitely in the first one.
He's
for sure.
dead in the second one.
But I don't know in the road.
He's Angry Max.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's
the-
Angry Max. I don't know if he's Mad Max.
In the Road Warrior, I don't know, but they, I guess the feral kid does say the man called Max, but I don't know if he ever tells anybody.
I don't think he does.
He's
But
talking
yeah.
to a bunch of mannequins and dead corpses that he killed.
Well,
and ate.
in Thunderdome when he fights, he's like, and it's Blaster versus the man with no name.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So overall, this franchise is interesting. That it's very, very famous, but the movies aren't that popular.
I don't think a lot of people have seen him. You're right. Yeah.
The franchise is pretty minimal. There is a Mad Max video game coming out soon, I think this year, that has nothing to do with this movie, and it's also not Mel Gibson's likeness, which is really weird.
I think this is one of those movies that people, when you take those Facebook things and they're like, how many of these 100 movies have you seen?
People
And
lie on this
No,
one.
they lie the shit.
Oh, yeah, I've seen all the Mad
or
Max
they're
movies.
like,
They think they've
they're
seen
like,
it.
this is, like, you've never seen fucking Mad Max. Like, whenever I look at people's results, I'm like, which 13 didn't you see? And I'm like, fucking Titanic. Like, Jeff, are you serious? Like, I'm waiting for the hype to die down. You know, it's like this movie people never see, and especially all three of them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
this one's out, and people are gonna see this one because like it's got the big budget marketing behind it. Yeah.
And actually, it has had the largest marketing budget per week for the last month on television, even more than Avengers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope it pays off, man.
Yeah.
I really do. And I'm going to go and I'm going to give my money for sure.
In the era of knowing 3 years out what's going to come, this is rare.
Yeah.
Very
Especially
refreshing.
for a name brand like this.
And even, you know, if it doesn't make a lot of money, that's too bad. But at least we're going to get to see this one. And I think
Oh.
it's going to be awesome.
The three of us, I'm sure, will be there opening.
And then what? And then what do you get? You might get the darker version of another sequel where they're like, okay, well, you know, we're not going to give
Totally.
you the 150 million. Like, here's 60. Do something cool.
Yeah.
And you know, George Miller, being the fucking auteur that he is, will make it happen.
He'll set it all in one room.
All right,
what happens.
guys. So that's going to wrap it up for the CCD podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. Mike, you got a few events you want to plug for CCD?
I mean, we got a bunch of shit coming up. We got 2 art shows coming up. June 20th, we got the HBO show over at the Irish Haven in Brooklyn. Our 4th live art show, 20 artists. Pretty cool stuff. We're going to be honoring the original programming of HBO, which is close to 40 years at this point. Worth of programs. Too many programs for the artists to actually choose from. We are no way affiliated with HBO, but we are paying homage to them and honoring them, and through our artwork, all the artists are going to get, you know, an individual property, and they're going to make it work for them and try to show what they thought they loved about the show best.
Cool.
And then the second big event that we got coming up is probably the Piece de Resistance, the first annual CCD block party. It's going to be held at Arrogant Swine in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Barbecue spot, big corner property. They have a big outdoor patio. They make delicious food. They have a great beer and bourbon selection. And we're going to be doing an all-day event there on June 25th. It's going to be a 50-plus artist art show called Remix, which is basically a reimagining of all album covers. Every artist is going to take an album cover and redo it as if they were the original graphic artist in charge of that project. And so we're going to end up with some, 12 by 12 beautiful images, about 50 pieces of original art. We're going to have stuff for sale. We're going to have collaborations. There's going to be live music and DJs, and we're going to fucking set up a Terradome.
Ooh, man.
It's going to be awesome.
Thunderdome.
Well, yeah,
Thunderdome,
welcome
Thunderdome.
to the Thunderdome, bitch. It's like, it's just, it's going to be epic. It's going to be a great,
Excellent.
great
Can't
day,
wait.
man. You know?
And Leland, we can check out your movie, The Fix, at fixdoc.com.
Fixdoc.com.
And on
iTunes and Google Play and whatever else.
Very cool
Amazon.
documentary from our good friend Leland James. Thank you very much for joining us. You can check us out on Facebook at the CCD Podcast, Instagram at the CCD Experience, and ccdblog.com. Mr. Mike D, thank you very much.
This has been humongous.
Mr. Leland James.
I'll see you on the road, Scad, just like the Knight Rider.
All right, guys, take it easy. Bye-bye.